Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to Fannin's Flashbacks, the podcast that nobody asked for, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. This podcast is going to cover tales from IWA Mid-South during my 12 years with the company, and it will be a part of the VNMVS Podcast Network. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only due to the foul language and graphic details about deathmatch wrestling that it will contain. This will be your backstage pass to get a peek behind the curtain at what led to the downfall of the craziest independent wrestling promotion of the late 1990s, early 2000s. And without any further ado, Nick Manawa, hit the music. Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 20 of Fannin's Flashbacks. It's the podcast nobody asked for, but I decided to give it to you anyway. I am joined today by my little brother, pro wrestling's BFF, Papa Manawa himself, Nick Manawa. He is the hardest working man in indie wrestling. Nick can do it all and should be working full-time in the wrestling business with a job that actually pays his bills. So someone get the fuck on that already. Hey, wait a minute. Is this Groundhog Day? Didn't we just do this? What is going on? I love having you on here, Nick, but you told me you had a guest lined up for me. Is this another three-parter like tripping balls?
It is not another three-parter, Jim. You know, this is episode 20. We've been doing this for so long now. And, you know, we started the first episode with Ben Rich. We needed, you know, a real big name for episode 20. It's the big deal, you know, especially, you know, people would see the podcast and you know, you don't know how long people are going to stay around. So for this, as a gift to you, Jim Fannin.
A gift to me?
Yes. It's
All
not
right.
Hollywood. It's not Nadia Nice. It is the bane of your existence.
What?
The zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs, has agreed to be on the show. Jimmy Jacobs, let's get him on.
Nope.
Jim.
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 No way.
Jim.
Nope.
Come back.
Nope.
Jim, I mean, think about the numbers this will do, Jim. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, we in here. I'm Pro Wrestling's BFF Nick Manawa, and you're not listening to the Reed Bentley and Nick Manawa Variety Show. You're not listening to Wrestle Manawa. You're not listening to Manawa's Mausoleum Mysteries, or even myself and Mike Ruff's Mid-South Memories. You're watching Fannin's Flashbacks. You're listening to Fannin's Flashbacks, and what a guest we have here today, Jim. A former three-time IWA Light Heavyweight Champion, a former IWA World Champion, the one, the only zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Nick and James Fannin there. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me here.
You spring shit like this on me, Nick Manawa, and this might turn into the Wrestle Manawa show, but we'll see how it goes.
You know, they said, it would never be done. If you look outside, you know, it's not, raining unicorns and all that fun stuff. There's no pigs flying. We got it done. Episode 20. We had to make it a big thing. We've done this for 20 weeks, Jim. So we had to get Jimmy on the show. Obviously, you guys have a storied past. So before we get into all that, we want to get into Jimmy's first ever IWA show. His debut was on November 30th of 2002 at the IWA Pro-Am. Ace Steel defeated Jimmy Jacobs and Chucky Smooth in a triple threat match. Do you have any memory of that, Jimmy?
Absolutely, I have memory of that. I remember, you know, look, if you ask me what I did yesterday, I don't know, but early on in my wrestling career, like that's, you remember the first. I had been working for 3 years, and IWA Mid-South was like the place to be. And I had wrestled Adam Gooch at a Comic-Con in Chicago. Like, we had wrestling at the Comic-Con, and Adam Gooch was just at the Comic-Con, and like we bumped each other in the bathroom. I didn't know who he was, and he introduced himself, and I ended up getting him on the show. We wrestled, and he ended up hooking me up with Ian. I called Ian up. I was going to be on my way down to Atlanta to do the Blue Bloods training camp.
Okay.
And so I was like, Louisville's on my way down.
Yeah.
And Ian booked me, and I was scared. And this was right after Thanksgiving,
Yep.
and it's the pro am show. So there was like some like backyarders on it,
Yep,
right?
yep. The ring
Yeah,
rental
yeah.
kids are there, and they're gonna wrestle pros on the show. And Ian's, that's where he found Mickey, so he's trying to find, the next Kentuckiana star. And uh, I guess Shrek Daddy was the was the guy that got the pick. But yeah, it was like you said, a bunch of backyarders, the guys that rented out the ring to run their own shows and mess around on that show.
Yeah, and so there's other basically backyarders on the show that day, and it's my first show. And there was a show on Thursday. It was like Thanksgiving, so this is Saturday after Thanksgiving. And so I meet Bull Payne, and I go, "Hi, sir. My name's Jimmy Jacobs." And he goes, "Yo, Bull Payne." And he's like, "Were you at the show Saturday or Thursday? Were you at the show on Thursday?" Thinking like I'm a like a fan,
Okay.
like a backyarder. And I go, "No, but I heard they drew pretty good." And he just goes, "Ah!" And he goes, "Johnny!" And I'm like, "What the fuck did I say?" Apparently, he thought I said, the question is, were you at the show Thursday? He thought I said, "No, but I heard that you're pretty good." As opposed to, "No, but I heard they drew pretty good." It's like, "No, but I heard you're pretty good. This Bull Payne, I heard about you. I don't know. You're a good kid, I hear. Got a lot of
Right.
potential."
God.
So that's my first day, and we had separate locker rooms back then, right? There's the Bayface locker room, the heel locker room, and me and Ace and Chucky didn't talk about anything. I
Oh.
got a I got a note. I got a note passed to me, delivered to the heel locker room that said, "Lock up, power bomb, we fucking kill you." That was the
God bless.
that's
I
all we
probably
had
passed
called.
that note. I probably was the one that ran that note because
It was either
if
you or the ref, Nick.
right, if anybody watches those old Clarksville shows, if you just watch the back door, you will see someone come out of the babyface locker room, go out that back door, and then 2 minutes later out of the heel locker room and go out the back door so they can, talk over stuff. And if you knew what you were looking for, you would see it. It was hard for me to not see it because, I got tired. We had walkie talkies at one point of like passing, notes and calling stuff, and it was just absurd. But like you said, you were going to the Blue Bloods camp because that was on November 30th, and then you didn't become a regular until around January. You wrestled Danny Daniels. You wrestled a returning from sabbatical me Mitch Page. And then you wrestle Alex Shelley for the first time in an IWA ring on February 21st. Uh, on Cage Match, it looked like that was the first time you had wrestled Alex Shelley as Alex Shelley. He wrestled as something previous in Michigan. Was that the first time you guys locked it up as Jimmy Jacobs versus Alex Shelley? Do you recall?
I don't think it was. Yeah, so he had a different name. He wrestled under David Decker, and so we had wrestled in Michigan. I know we had a match, I believe, in Indiana for
Okay.
Dick the Bruiser Jr., I believe.
Okay.
We wrestled before, but that was it. So maybe like
Yeah, sometimes a cage match, especially the smaller promotions, they don't have the. But like I said, you beat Alex on.
Well, before we move on to
yes,
this stuff, let's just go back to that Bull Payne story for a moment. And how old were you at this point, though, Jimmy? You were pretty young.
I was 18. Yeah,
18, and I mean, no offense to you, you might have been 120 pounds soaking wet at that point. You were a small little guy, so let's not just think that Bull's the crazy old, veteran that doesn't, when you were about as big as his leg, I think at that point. And
yeah, it was just it was a funny intersection of circumstances with the Pro-Am show, with also backyarders on it, and the show on Thursday and everything. Yeah, Bull wanted to kill me the first time he saw me. Yeah,
but is that how the match went? You just went in there and got power bombed and killed right off the bat? in that
the
first one?
three-way?
Yeah.
No, the three-way. It was a bullshit three-way match. You know, what sort of three-way match you're gonna have without fucking talking about anything? And then the referee fucked up the finish. And then
Yeah, I think the referee was backyard too. Like there were some backyard referees as well. So, God bless.
yeah, well, Ace Steel clotheslined him in the face for it. So
Oh man. God. So you start you don't even know it's a feud yet. You have that first match, and if I know Ian Rod and he saw it and was like, "Holy shit, these guys can go. This is great." So a month later, Shelley gets his win back on March 21st, and then at Quote the Raven, we get 2 out of 3 falls, with Alex Shelley being the victor in that contest. And then the infamous hair versus boot hair match happens on April 18th, 2003, between you and Alex Shelley. And that was just because Alex Shelley wanted to cut his hair, right?
yeah, so I don't know if the first time Ian saw us, he was like, "Hey, these kids got it," because our second match together, our rematch, he forgot he booked us. So
Oh,
we show up to the show. He had forgotten he booked us, and he's just like, yeah, you two, go for it."
okay.
But then he did see something in us, wanted to do the 2 out of 3 falls match, and yeah, Alex wanted to shave his head, and then like coming up to game time, he's like, "I don't really want to shave my head. Can you just give me a haircut?" And I'm like, it was your idea, bro. It was
Right.
your idea. You wanted your head fucking shaved, and now I've got to like put the
Yeah,
guard
you're
on.
like cut. Yeah.
And God bless Ian. Ian's on commentary, like trying to salvage it, going like, "God, he's making Alex look like an idiot. God, Alex is gonna have to get a real haircut here after this."
Well, and in Ian's defense, and I'm not going to say that sentence too often anymore, but in his defense on that little part of the story, like people would just show up, and he was always he would book 50 guys on every damn show, because all that it would take is somebody going, "Well, can you use this guy?" And he'd be like, "Oh, well, yeah, I might. I'll throw him in there." And "Oh, I want to give everybody a chance and an opportunity." And so people would show up, and he'd be like, "Damn, I forgot all about that." And Nick can attest to it. Not the most organized man in the world. He didn't write everything down. And so we would, half the time we didn't really know if he'd booked the person or not. And they just would show up and be like, "Yeah," and who knows how many people ended up getting an opportunity on shows because they would just show up and be there. And
Right. Yeah, he definitely later on in IWA's run, he would definitely book someone on a Thursday and say, "See you next week," and then they'd show up. He would be like, "Hey, we got to put him somewhere because I forgot I forgot he was coming." So yeah, it was a running thing in IWA Mid South. Uh, you give Alex Shelley the haircut. From there, it's 30-minute Iron Man. It's a respect match. You guys do a best of 3 in a on a Clarksville show, pins only, submission only, Texas Death, and each of those matches go 21 minutes, 19 minutes, 20 minutes, in an 8-match show with only 12 guys booked, and you guys wrestled 3 times. How did you guys, like, what was the discussion driving back to Michigan or driving to your next show? Like, were you guys like, "Fuck yeah, we had 3 matches, that's awesome," or was it like, "Damn, are we being taken advantage of here"?
Yo, that wasn't even our first match that day was my third match that day. I had
Oh wow.
I had 2. We didn't drive together. I had 2 matches in the morning for Eddie Farhat for AWL up in Lansing. So I did 2 matches, drove by myself, showed up like close to bell time. So Alex and I talked like we were in the ring talking about the first match, and then Ian, I don't think was there that day. I think he was in Philly. And
Okay.
so I think Jim Fannin was running the show. And he calls for doors while we're still calling the first match, and we're like, "All right, we'll call the second match during the first match." And yeah, I loved it. All I wanted to do is be in the ring. All I wanted to do was wrestle.
Right.
I had 5 matches that day, and probably got paid like $20 for the first 2 matches, and I think $40. I think it was a $40 payday for the 3 matches with me and Shelley.
Man,
But like,
living.
And you said I called for the doors immediately. I wasted no time when I was running the shows. Ian would want to be there till 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd want to be out by 10 p.m. You know, I get in, get out. No one wants to be trapped there all damn day. And so, yeah, I probably called for the doors. I probably had a 2-minute intermission. When we went to the intermission in there, it's get the show over with, you know?
Well, I didn't want to get the show over with. Alex and I just took our time. I mean, one of the things I love about IWA, I love it. I learned so much in IWA, but what I didn't learn was the value of a minute, was like the value of time, because like at IWA, there were no time constraints. It was just like, take as much time as you want to do whatever you want. Once I went to WWE, I had to learn the value of a minute, the economy of words, the economy of movement, things like that. But in IWA, it was just like, yo, man, just you have all the canvas in the world to paint whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he
and
would like, I don't know about you when you were first starting out. I know like how he would do with, you know, the stuff I was involved in, stuff that like Bull, he would just come up to us and be like, you're going over with your finish. And that like, he wouldn't say you've got 10 minutes bell to bell. He wouldn't do any of that stuff. It was, you know, you guys would have the, like you said, that creativity, freedom to do what you want. And the only time that he would regret that is when Hero would be out there and it'd be, you know, 58 minutes into a thumbtack match at King of the Death with Corporal Robinson, and Ian's yelling at me from the, you know, commentary table because I'm managing Hero, and he's like giving me the sign to go home, and I'm telling Hero for 20 minutes, you got to go home. We're being told to go home, and like Hero's like, no, I get to do, you know, this is freedom to do what I want out here. And I'm like,
I think Chris
no one
knew.
wants a 58-minute, you know, thumbtack match. Let's go.
I think he knew he was never going to do a thumbtack match again, so he had to do everything he's ever thought of for a thumbtack match in that match because he knew I'm never doing this again.
Right.
Jimmy, at that time, you know, you'd already been wrestling a little bit. Did you know? We heard a lot of this talk when you know, Shelley started wrestling. Did you see him as a prodigy in wrestling? Because I mean, he came to IWA and it was like, we've never seen this guy, we've never even heard of this guy, and then you guys start feuding, and it's like, oh, we have, this is the next feud, this is the next, you know, Hero Punk, this is the next, you know, whatever. Did you think he was a prodigy? Did you think he was that good, you know, so early on?
I don't know if a prodigy. I considered him diligent. You know, obviously he's extremely talented, but he was mostly diligent. Like he watched tapes. He, you know, would watch the lucha, you know, with for their holds, and he would watch the Torimons who were all like, and he would, you know, write this down and practice it, and then like do it. And so that
Right.
that was it. So I mean, I didn't think he was a prodigy. Just like he was very diligent, and studied with what he wanted to do.
Gotcha. You started with Ring of Honor in June of '03. I always heard a story of like Ring of Honor people or maybe like RF video people coming across Smart Mark Video like at a buffet or maybe just another show, and they asked Smart Mark Video like, who are some IWA guys we should seek out? We know you guys tape the shows, and you know they named you and Shelley and, you know, of course, Hero, but they never gave Hero a look until later on. Have you ever heard that story or anything like that?
I've never heard that story. My understanding on the opportunity that we got going to ROH, CM Punk, who, you know, I knew since I was like 16, and he did not like me. He grew to like me.
Right.
Uh, he grew to like me once I was sort of like in IWA, and he saw like, oh, it's not just a stupid kid from Michigan. Like he's doing it. He's doing it like he's doing it.
Right.
And he liked the stuff me and Shelly were doing. He asked for a match to give to Gabe. I gave him the 30-minute Iron Man match we did. Gabe watched it, said these guys are good. They're not Ring of Honor good though. And but shortly thereafter, they want to book Chris Sabin, and Gabe said, "Hey, bring 2 guys, and we'll put them on the pre-show, so you can drive because they don't want to pay for a flight." And so he asked me and Shelly, and then once Sabin told Gabe, "Hey, Jacob, Shelly," he's like, "Oh, I've seen them. They're actually pretty good. We'll put them on the main show." And that's how that happened.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. You kind of turned babyface at King of the Deathmatch '03 because you tag with Alex against CZW's Adam Flash and Sanjay Dutt, and then M Dog and Nate Webb. For people that don't know the story, there was a breakup with M Dog and CZW where he went to XPW, and this was really the first time M Dog kind of was around the CZW guys. Do you remember any of that, like heat or anything like that? Like they're gonna shoot on M Dog in this match.
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, there definitely was some like intensity, right? Just like in the to whatever degree, like
That was the
it was
bus trip.
like it
So
was.
like a bunch of East Coast fans were there. Obviously, a bunch of East Coast wrestlers were there for the big King of the Deathmatch weekend. So there was definitely that us versus them mentality. And then even just in that one match, it's Nate Webb, super babyface, and M Dog 20, who most of these fans hate because they're from the East Coast, and he jumped to XPW, and then of course you guys as the IWA team, fully. But you guys all jump off the spider's nest. Even Dave Prazak does a moonsault in that match off the spider's nest. Just crazy stuff. So I wasn't sure if it was like, hey, we're gonna do all this fun stuff, but like we hate Matt Cross. We're gonna we're gonna beat his ass in that match, and then we'll do some flips off of this.
Yeah, I don't think there was any of that, but like it it wasn't all fake, right? Like
Right,
like
right.
the rivalry and the CZW, XPW, IWA. It wasn't like all fake. Of course, it's a work, but like there was real emotions and real feelings and real like ego and things like that in the mix.
Yeah,
Now
the
that
night before.
King of the Death match, so you said that's '03.
Yes,
So that's the fame. Was that was night two though? Night one was where Nate did the double
yes,
entrance that
yes,
that caused the heat between me and Nate. Was Becky Bayless at that
yes. She was
with
there a whole weekend.
that whole weekend? So was that your first encounter with Becky, Jimmy?
No, we had met at my my Ring of Honor debut. So June, late June of '03, and we had like cross paths online. We were like, in the same like chat rooms. We'd, my sushi baby and Barbie head and like
Right.
right. We would do these like late night chat rooms, like the West Coast people. So we had run across each other then, but yeah, I think King of the Death match is probably where we first.
Like hung out.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we saw each other in July. So that was King of the Death match is August. So I think that's probably where we first like hung out. We probably like, chatting on AOL Instant Messenger for a month, in
Right,
between.
right. Building it up.
Yeah, and
We're
then
gonna
it was
hang out
like
at Chris Hero's house
right, which is what we
and
did. We cuddled on the floor in Chris Hero's house. Yeah.
right. Fantastic. Later in that year, in November of '03, you and Alex have a best of seven series. It started over the WXW World Title. This is straight up matches, submission matches, lumberjacks, Texas Death, and then you ended the best of seven with two cage matches back to back. Do you recall that?
Is that what it was? Two cage
Oh
matches?
yeah, like we set up the cage for the main event, and I guess you guys had a match. It ended, and then you guys, went back to your quarters, and then had another match because the cage was already up.
Is that what it was? I remember us having multiple matches in one night. I thought we had three matches in one night again. I thought that, but I could be two cage matches. Sure, it was something like that because I think what was going on? Like we started this best of seven series, and then I don't know if Ian was like canceling shows or not running mini shows, or Shelly started to become more in demand and less available. But basically, we had to like the best of seven. When do we start it and when do we end it?
I I believe it in November you started it, and then it was pretty much every show or every other show you guys were having two matches or three
Yeah.
matches or something. You ended that series with a 4-3 victory in that best of 7. The WXW title got out of it somehow and went to someone else, and then you were victorious in that series for the best of 7, winning 4-3.
Oh, you know what? I probably took I won the series, and then I probably took the belt to
Germany, you probably,
Germany,
yeah,
right? Yeah, that sounds right. We probably needed to
Uh,
finish up the feud before.
right,
Yeah,
right.
so we finish it up in December, right? It needs to be finished up before I go to
Before you
Germany
went back,
to
right?
drop the
Gotcha,
title.
gotcha. We're kind of jumping around everywhere
Well, before
here.
we move on
Yes,
here, with the best of 7, normally we start the podcast by getting like what made people a fan and did they watch as a kid and stuff like that. Nick didn't start this way since he's the one driving, but you do this best of 7 series. I'm of the era, I'm older than you, so I'm of the era where I grew up with the Magnum TA Nikita Koloff best of 7 series. Was that something like you had watched at some point, and were you like trying to go with previous best of 7s, or are you guys just doing this is our own thing and we're not going to care about history, and we're just going to put our own touch on it and we don't care? Or how does that work when two guys are doing something, because not everybody has a best of 7 series, so
Yeah, so
like what goes into that?
I've never seen that best of 7 series with Nikita and so you say
And
Magnum.
back
Yeah.
then I don't even think all 7 matches are available
Yeah.
and were taped. A lot of them were just house shows, and they'd come back the next week and be like, and I think with that one, Magnum went down 0-3 and then tied it 3-3, and and then Nikita ended up winning it in the 7th and last. But I think only about half of the matches are actually like stuff that you can watch.
Yeah, that's how it used to be back in the day. It's like if you weren't there, you can't see it. I don't remember what the psychology and the thought process was in setting up this best of 7 series. So I recently subscribed to IWTV because I wanted to see a recent match of mine. And now I've been going back and seeing just going oh, look, let me watch my old stuff. So I've been just going back and watching my old stuff on IWTV. They don't have a lot of that era IWA uploaded.
Yeah,
But they do have the first match in me and Shelly's best of 7 series. And watching that, obviously our psychology of the first match was to keep it fairly simple. The first match was fairly simple, and we're gonna build from there. So at least we had that. And as far as the rest of it goes, again, there was something that was going on that I remember feeling yo, this best of 7 series sucks. This is not being executed
yeah,
properly.
probably because you had to rush it to make sure
it,
you.
it was something like that.
Yeah.
It was something like we had to rush it. There was shows that were canceled, or Shelly couldn't make stuff, and it was just this isn't a cohesive thing. This just feels like a random thing going on and not a story being told.
Right. Yeah, let me yeah, because it looks like the best of 7 started in November, and then it ended, like you said, uh well, even the you beat Alex for the WXW title in December, and then there's a break there, and then we don't even do the cage matches until June of 04.
Oh,
So
that's okay. That's there you go. See, I knew
so
there was something.
yeah, there was a break there.
So we do that was the number 3 in the best of 7 series before I take the fucking title to
Yeah, because you guys have the first match at Breaking Balls, and then you have the next match at WrestleFeast in 2003, and then on December 19th, you guys have 3 matches: a submission match, a lumberjack match, and Texas Death at Winter Wars 03, and then for one more time in June of 04, you guys have those 2 cage matches. And it looks like Becky is on the show with you for December. And like I said, you got the AJ Styles versus Hero in the main event. Michael Shane's on it.
yeah, this is a mess. This is a
Yeah.
mess. We do we do like
You guys
one
open the
match.
show,
We
and then
do
there's
one
like four
match here.
matches, and then there's another match, and then there's three matches,
Yeah.
and then another match, and then yeah.
Right. Then so we do a match, and then we do 3 matches a night. Then 6 months later, 2 matches. So it's
Right.
like it was a fucking mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. My recollection is correct on that. I was like, there was something
Yes.
that was up about it. Yeah, that's a fucking mess.
Right. It could have
And
been
that
some...
happens so often in
Right.
IWA. We just did a series on the podcast where Trippin' Balls asked me anything, and it was a marathon session that got turned into 3 weeks worth of shows. And in one of them, he was like, "Why in the hell did like you and Ian feud for, you know, 9 out of my 12 years?" And it was like, because we were the only two that we knew for sure was going to be at the show, you know, because like you said, Ring of Honor comes along and takes half the roster, and, you know, everybody's moving up, you know, nobody was wanting to stay IWA for life, you know, that we were a stepping stool to get to the higher, you know, everybody wanted to get to the upper echelons of the business. So, you know, you would have a 6-month gap in stuff that was going on because, you know, you guys caught such fire at that point and became such a hot commodity that you guys are being booked in other places. And to try to get the both of you, you know, are you going to take our small ass payday to come wrestle in front of 40 people, or you're going to take a bigger payday to wrestle in front of, you know, 500 people, 600 people, whatever Ring of Honor was drawing at the time? I don't even know, because I wouldn't watch it. But, you know, it just made it so hard to be able to have, especially something that's supposed to be a best of 7. You know, what do you do when you get stuck after 5, you know, and you can't get both guys on the same show again? You know, it really hurts the product that way.
Yeah, I think it could be a possibility that Ian forgot that he started this series and then was like, you know, me or someone brought it up. Hey, you know, you never finished that best of 7. Oh shit, you know, you're right. I haven't. Let me.
I think basically Shelley became unavailable because
Yeah.
I continued working for IWA throughout, like from when I started, you know, for
Right.
until I dropped the title, those 4 years. But Shelley basically kind of once he was getting a little more success,
He was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. At this time, you're jumping around. You're, you know, wrestling people like J.C. Bailey and Nate Webb. There's a match with Mark Wolf, the late great Mark Wolf, in a 3-way. You're winning the light heavyweight title. Did that mean anything to you to win, you know, a title at IWA Mid South, that light heavyweight title?
So when did I win that?
I think that was the let's see, let me get the timeline exactly here. You're a 2-time IWA light heavyweight champion. You first won it in August of 04, and then you won it again in September of 04. You beat Delirious at the TPI to win it for the second time, and then you lost it to Delirious uh, by DQ in a title versus mask match. Uh, Maybe is that when you went crazy with the spike or something like that? Maybe to get the DQ. I forget the exact reason. You beat Briar Wellington.
Yo, fucking, you know, Ian, yo, that was crazy. Fuck, I forgot about that. I forgot about this. Fuck, man. That was like a shoot. Like it was a DQ finish, and then Ian just comes out and goes, "No, the title's changing hands on the DQ finish."
Oh,
Right.
okay.
That's what happens. I'm almost certain of it.
That does sound familiar now
It was
that you
just
say
like
it.
I was in the ring on. Okay, so if you're asking, did it mean? It didn't. I don't remember it meaning anything for me to win
Gotcha.
the title. Like in my mind, the belts, generally speaking, I view it probably a little differently now than I did back then. I saw them more as a prop back then than I do now.
Right.
Like they were just a prop. Now I would have a little more like, oh, okay, like I'm the guy that's being asked to carry this thing right now. It would feel a little different. But I think at that point it was just like, yeah, no, this is just the spot I'm in. It's just the spot I'm in is just
Because
having a belt.
this is
And those are stories.
after You had already dropped the Huss thing. You're kind of trying to find yourself. In that delirious feud, you're wearing the Billy Joe Travis one-legged tights, and you got custom music, and like I said, you're trying to find something. Was that, you always kind of reinvented yourself in your career? Was that like the first time you really? I mean, obviously you started as Jumpin' Jimmy Jacobs, and then you went in to the Berserker. Was that, was it hard to try to find yourself and find something that connects with the crowd, especially, at that time you're so young already. You went from the Huss thing that was super over and people were really into, but you didn't want to pigeonhole yourself as the Huss kid, for all those years. What was the thought process in terms of trying to think of something else? Did you have another idea, or was it just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck?
It was always kind of throwing stuff at the wall. It's interesting. I was watching all this IWTV stuff, and they've got a few things for me from like 2002, 2003. And the first thing they have is 2002 from MAW, and I come out on the pogo stick, top
Oh,
hat,
wow.
pogo stick, jumping Jimmy Jacobs. And the next thing is my IW debut, and like I'm wearing like pink tights, and I call myself the bulging behemoth Jimmy Jacobs, but I announced myself from Goof City, USA. So I'm like, it's this like weird conglomeration of things. And then me and Mitch Page, like I think I'm not from Goof City anymore, but like I do the Huss, even though I don't have furry boots, I do the Huss thing for a second because I'm going to give him a big boot. And then
Right.
he's supposed to catch the big boot and doesn't, and it's a fuck up. And then I try to boot him for real, and then he actually catches it, whatever. But you'll notice I go Huss, Huss, and then I go for a boot. So I'm like playing around. Like I had the furry boots outside of IWA a little bit before that. So I was just playing around with stuff. Why did I get rid of the Huss thing? I don't know, man. I don't know. When I look back at that, I go, fuck, man. People were like, reactions everywhere I went, all the time, easy monosyllabic chant with a fucking hand sign. Like, what was I thinking? I probably wasn't thinking, I was probably intuiting. I was probably
Right.
intuiting that like this is, and that's been kind of how my career's gone. Is like it's just sort of like intuiting like this is over. There's something, this isn't exactly it. And so it's a lot of playing around with stuff. So you see this like development of like, yes, like a little bit barbaric berserker, but a little more human now. There's no furry boots. The catalyst for it, I believe, if I remember correctly, is Becky Bayless and I broke up. Becky Bayless and I
Okay.
broke up, and I come to a show and I just don't want to be there.
Right.
I want to fly to her house and fucking John Cusack fucking
Yeah.
say anything and outside of her window. And so in my sorrow, in my agony, in my heartbreak, I show up to IWA and I wrestle in fucking pajamas and come out with a fucking boombox. And I
Yep.
think that's the first time I wrestle without furry boots. And so that
Okay.
just I believe, like, again, if memory serves me right, and I'm not saying it does, and someone can correct us if it does.
Right.
So yeah, and so then it's just like you start to see like there's a little more human in me, and eventually I become like a full like human being wrestler.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, I remember that you coming out with the boombox because you were like, "Hey, I have new music tonight." And I was like, "All right, man, cool." I was doing the sound, and then you come out, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I see what he's doing here. Right on."
Yeah, it was just like art imitating life at that point. It
Right.
just like on the nose, bled over. Yeah.
So before we move on, Nick, then
Yes.
I'll let you take back over.
Yes.
Since you brought up, we've talked Becky. You just mentioned the breakup. Was the breakup before the kangaroo court? Am I
Oh
fever
yeah.
dreaming
Oh, yeah.
the kangaroo court
No,
thing?
you're not fever dreaming the
Okay.
kangaroo court. It happened. It was we broke up. God, probably summer, spring of 04, and the kangaroo court was in December of 04.
Okay. So since it's sort of connected, let's just talk that now. Because I remember it being one of my favorite stories that something like this happened. I wasn't present for it happening. So let's just I don't know who's listening as to whether they understand kangaroo court, but damn this thing with me raising hands. I got to learn how to not talk with my hands. Right. But anyway, the somewhere on here, it'll eventually figure it out. Yes. I don't know. Kangaroo court, you know, the wrestlers will make up imaginary laws and rules of conduct and what is supposed to happen. And then if you break these rules, you know, you are put on trial amongst your peers and you have to, you know, defend yourself. So let's just walk the listeners through. I don't know if you've told this story before on other podcasts, but let's hear about the trial of Jimmy Jacobs in Rock Island. And wasn't Chris Candido took up your cause and was your attorney on record for this?
Yeah, he did. And look, it's not much of a story. So, but that's a story. I had wrestled Chris that night. Rock Island, Illinois, which was awesome. It was great. He was the fucking man. And me and him were sharing a hotel room. I think we were sharing a hotel room and we were partying in it a bit. It's the first day I ever fucking took drugs. And Ian's there, BJ Whitmer's there, Candido's there. I forget who else is there. And I was telling a story about this, you know, MySpace was around at this point, and about how a girl had come over to my house that I met on MySpace, and we like were in bed together, but we didn't I didn't have sex with her. And Ian's like, "Wait a minute, you guys were making out and didn't have sex?" And I go, "No." He goes, "That's it. Wrestler's court. I'm calling you on charges of actions unbecoming of a professional wrestler." So, you know, actions unbecoming of a professional wrestler because I didn't have sex with this girl. And Candido, yeah, he took up he defended the fuck out of me. It's the only time, other than when I defended the referee at ROH one time, it's the only time that I've ever seen a defense attorney actually like go to bat, man. And he did. He tried to like appeal to my character. He didn't just throw me under the bus. That's normally what the defense attorneys do in wrestlers court, right? You know, right. You get delirious as the defense attorney just speaks English, right? And he tried, but it was a hard case that he lost. And Ian, I was found guilty, and my sentence was to have casual sex within a month, which I didn't do. So right. Yeah. I eventually did. I eventually had casual sex at some point in my life.
You broke the streak. Yeah, right.
Yeah, not within that month.
Sometimes you just need a good cuddle puddle. You know what I mean?
He was great, man. Candido was great. He, God, I forget the rest of the story. Something he had called Becky too. I wrote like a live journal about it, man. There's like a whole live. I mean, I deleted my live journal because
so did I.
Stuff from 20 some years ago doesn't always hold up.
No, does not.
Yeah. I deleted it like right before I went to WWE. I was like, I don't know if there's just
smart decision there, pal. So yeah, I mean, I can only imagine just seeing.
So it wasn't it wasn't though Becky that was involved in the story, because I had heard that this was like Becky Bayless and you.
No, the thing with Becky so I was still hung up over Becky, and I was like obsessing over her. And Chris, what happened? Like we're texting. Oh, here's what happened. We're texting back and forth. Maybe we're even on the phone. She ends up calling me. And what ended up happening is Chris picks up the phone. And again, I still want her back at this point. I still want her back. I'm like, no, don't. He's like, don't worry. And he picks up the phone and tells Becky, I'm in a hotel room with another girl. That's what the Becky Bayless part of that.
Okay, because I thought for sure there was like, but I thought it was because of her.
That was the whole rap.
If anyone knows,
and after he did that, Becky was fucking nice to me after that. I remember being like, look, it worked.
Yeah.
He was not always nice to me. But I was also insane too. Like
right. It was 20 years ago. You know, there was stuff that happened, words said, actions done, you know.
Yeah. And when I talk about everything I've done in the past, please put in the asterisks. Please note, like, I was fucking insane. I'm not defending a thing that I've done in my past because I was a fucking nutcase.
But don't
Right.
sell yourself short on it. You know, she did you wrong, and she did you so wrong. And I'll tell this little story and jump way ahead. But God damn it with this thing and freaking
There you go.
Manawas, tell me to stop talking with my hands. Anyway, when I was dating my now wife, she was a big rock fan and was living in DeKalb, Illinois. So one of the dates that we ended up going on was this rock festival that the rock station in Rockford, Illinois, that's a lot of rock. The rock station in Rockford, Illinois would hold this like festival every year called the Wing Ding. And they would bring in all of these, you know, rock music acts. And so this is 2007. So well into our stuff going on that we'll eventually get into. And Breaking Benjamin or whatever the hell that band was comes out and gets introduced on the stage, and I revert back to my IWA fandom of like hating Doug Gilbert. And so I turn my back and I'm flying middle fingers with my back turned and won't even look at the stage. And my wife's like, what the fuck did these guys do to you? And it's like, not what they did to me. It's not what they did to me. And then when I defended you, she was like, that Jimmy Jacobs? And I was like, yes, that Jimmy Jacobs, but you know, he got done wrong. So
to be, I appreciate the support in whatever warped way, because I was insane. So Becky didn't do me wrong. I did Becky wrong. Like, I wasn't good to her. I was an insecure. I was so in. I've been insecure my whole life. I've been insecure. I was insecure my entire life, and I was so insecure at 19, 20, and so codependent. I wasn't good to her. I broke up with her. She started dating a guy in this, in this band. I was so insecure that I was like, fuck these guys, fuck Breaking Benjamin, hiding their CDs in fucking stores. Becky was great. It was me. I'm the fucking insane person. It's all me.
We go from December of 04 in Rock Island, and I can only imagine Chris, his, especially at that time, his promos, he was just, he'd be sweating and going off, and just, and he would always make sense. So I can only see, I'm sure it was the best promo he ever cut. And if anyone knows about obsessing over a loved one, it is Chris Candido. So I think that's where he found the connection there. You know what I mean? He saw a lot of himself in you. So, he defended his ass off, hopefully with his trunks pulled up instead of down, for that kangaroo court. We jump ahead a little bit. You're just doing random stuff here and there. And then on April 1st of 2005 in Heron, Illinois, you defeat Danny Daniels for the IWA title. Do you have any memories of that? Did that mean something to you?
I remember being shocked by it. Like, at that point, for like a week or so, I had been wrestling not at IWA, but like locally, like just having a mustache. Like, I just had a mustache, and like I might even showed up to the show with just a mustache, just because like I'm fucking around. Like, again,
Right.
I'm trying shit out. And then Ian's like, "Yeah, you're gonna win the title." So I was like, "Damn, I can't be just a mustache guy today." But like, that was, yeah. Look, man, that was right around the time I got, in my opinion, I started to get good. It's really like late 04, I get a new fire under my ass. Cause like I got a fire mask in 03 and 04. Like I flounder a bit. It's not bad, but like late 04, like like you can see, I'm bigger, like I'm getting in shape, and I'm just like a little more, like I'm becoming a man. And I have this feud with Brandon Tomaselli, and I just started going, man. Like, it was finally, I'd been there almost 2 years at that point, and I finally was just like, yo, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna be in the moment, I'm gonna not just, hey, what's the booker gonna tell me to do, like. And so I kind of turned myself heel like kind of like I just start like ranting on
in that Brandon feud,
Yes,
because he's the
yes.
new young up and comer, and you see yourself in him, and you're trying to teach him the IWA way. You're trying to teach him, this is how we do stuff around here. You get all this, the marquee matches, you get all these opportunities. Well, you ain't shit essentially, in that Brandon Tomaselli feud.
And that shit all just happened. That's not a planned out thing. That's just like a little bit of how I'm feeling, and it's just coming out. And so I've got this like I really like that time between the Brandon stuff and me winning the title. Like I'm still playing a babyface, like I'm still acting like a babyface, but like there's something like I'm a heel, but I'm acting like a babyface. I got this match with Matt Seidel that I really liked from Highland around that time. So when I won the title from Danny, it was unexpected, um, but I see the decision. Like I would have made the
Right.
decision maybe.
Right. So it looks like you and Brandon start up in November of '04. You defend that light heavyweight title against him. And then Ian must have really liked that match, because there's a 2 out of 3 falls
Yeah.
match the next month in December. And then there is a respect match in January. And then you don't meet him again in the ring until you become the IWA World Champion later on in April of '05. Sometimes Ian would, really take a liking to someone, or like you said, you were trying different stuff, and he must have really enjoyed it, because, he was very, very high on Danny Daniels as the world champion. Danny wasn't really going out anymore. He was mainly just an IWA guy, which, Ian always, uh, booked better and had better shows when he had a core set of roster, or, he knew exactly, I'm going to be at this building every single week. I'm going to have these people every single week. And, that's when IWA, in my opinion, was at its best, when he knew exactly who was going to be there. Heron, Illinois was just like a random little town that we found. And the only thing really I remember is like we were on a stage, and I was doing the sound, so I'm like behind a curtain. I can barely see the ring, but I'm also like ringing the bell somehow. And we didn't draw very well in that city. I remember one time we had a show, and it was like the biggest high school football team. The homecoming game was the same night. So we had, 25 people there, and it's like, God bless. Like, can we just do a little bit of research to know when, not to run? But he thinks highly of you. He puts the title on you, and then you're off. So, you win the title on the 1st of April, and then on the 8th of April, you're wrestling CM Punk in Midlow. And like Jim mentioned, Punk doesn't realize that that's Jim's grandma in the crowd, and he's trying to use or you're trying to use her purse to hit Punk, and she's going after you, and Punk's trying to get a high five, and just a lot of fun. I think you got dunked in a basketball hoop for that match, and just crazy stuff. How did you feel, as your first night? First defense of the title, you're wrestling Punk and he's throwing you in a basketball hoop. Did you think like, oh man, I'm a fucking joke, or were you like, oh, it's Punk, like it's fine?
No, I called the spot. So Heron was not a great town to win the title in. But just to give you an idea of what a fucking maniac I was back then, Heron is about an 8-9 hour drive. I was living in Kalamazoo at the time. Two of my friends, Sarah and Jake, hop in a car with me. We 8-9 hours to Heron, Illinois. Then we go 16 hours to Asbury Park, New Jersey, just in time to make it to Ring of Honor for the show. Me and BJ win the tag titles there. Then we drive to Cleveland and have a Sunday for Cleveland. It was the same day as WrestleMania 20. And then I go home, and then on Tuesday I go to West Virginia for Madman Pondo to wrestle Delirious, and then Saturday I'm wrestling CM Punk. Like I was a fucking lunatic, man. I was like, yeah. I was as sick as anybody. I was the sickest motherfucker out there, man. Like anytime, any place, anywhere. The match with CM Punk, yeah, man, we're brawling on the outside, and I see the basketball hoop. And I say, throw me into the hoop. And he takes my head and he hits my head in the hoop. I go, no, throw me in the hoop. And, and that's just like, I'll give myself credit where it's due. I love to play and I love to like be on my toes and use what was ever around me, even at fucking 21. Like I'm 21 and I'm like directing fucking, traffic in there. Like, fucking Jim's grandma there. There she was getting a little feisty, and here's, old women and kids are like the best if you can get them to play along. And like the only thing I remember, if I remember it correctly, I want her to hit me. Like I'm face to face with her. I think I'm saying hit me, and she does like this, like she like I oughta, like a shake of the fist. And I think she's gonna hit me. So like for a second, like I almost like give like a little bit of a sell. Like she does this, and like I think I almost like do a minute like head back to punch me. But she had her opportunity and didn't take me up on it.
Man.
Well, and I tried to get her to be involved in like my match. And I wanted her to like come to the ring and grab me by the ear and be like, I raised you better than this, damn it, and drag me away from the ring. And she was like, absolutely not. I am not getting involved. I am not having anything to do with this. You're stop asking. And so I didn't even bring it up to Bull. Didn't even bring it up because I was like, she's not going to do it. She's not going to do it. And I don't think it was the same show that she got into it with you, but that must have given her like the
spunk,
to be like, okay. And then like she got so caught up in the moment of watching me do my heel shtick that she got so pissed off that she went up to the ring and grabbed me by the ear and started doing it. And Bull was ready to hit her with the bat, and I had to stop Bull. And we got into the back, and Bull's like, you need to fucking tell. And I'm like, she refused. She wanted nothing to do with it.
She shot it on me, brother.
She's shooting out here, goddammit. So you came close. You came close to getting her to hit you. That's for damn sure.
You go from the CM Punk match to you wrestle CM Punk, and then the next night you wrestle Hero in Highland. And as we know, the Highland curse for Chris Hero, so you beat Hero in 23 minutes. Later in that month, listen to this match. Eddie Kingston, Michael Shane, and Steve Corino defeat Eric Cannon, Ian Rotten, and Jimmy Jacobs for NWA No Limits, the Ritters up in Iowa, Burlington, Iowa. And then the next night, it's Jimmy Jacobs versus Abyss versus Ryan Boz. Obviously, you're a top guy now. You're the IWA World Champion. How did you feel against all these heavyweights like Abyss, like Ryan Boz, all these big dudes? Are you still able to hold your own and still able to look good against someone so massive? As a top guy now, not just the Huss guy or whatever.
Yeah, man. Like I was just doing it. I don't know, man. I like that. A lot was happening at that time for me. Like, again, I was working hard. I was in like decent shape. I win the IWA title. I win the ROH tag titles. I'm on SmackDown with Eddie Guerrero, like just in May there of that year. So like, I'm like doing it. I don't know. I didn't think anything of it other than the new challenge of being in the main event.
Gotcha.
Every night. That's something that I learned at IWA was how to follow everything. It's like everybody's gonna do everything for about 4 hours and then you're gonna go up. Like,
right. You got to be totally different than everything else. And at that time you definitely were.
And this is really where like I start brawling. Like
yeah.
I wasn't a brawler before this. Like it was when I was become the IWA Mid-South champion, and it's like, all right, let's start the match by fucking doing a walk around the block first, because everybody's doing all these like flips,
right.
And so it's a little more grittier for me, and like I cheated in every match I cheated.
Yeah, you always had something, a chain or Nux or.
I thought it was a bit excessive, but like that's how Ian wanted to do it, where it was like literally every win had was some sort of heat on the finish.
Right. You go from there, you beat James Gibson and Valpo.
Oh, and real quick, that 6-man tag, those were supposed to be singles matches. Michael Shane wanted he was like, can't we just make this a 6-man tag instead?
Okay,
He did the
gotcha.
old brother gimmick, the old
Yeah.
like brother. Oh, I don't know. We're in, he
And
did
God,
that.
God loved the Ritters, but I'm sure they were like, whatever you say, sir, we'll do
Right,
exactly what.
Michael Shea. And the big spot in that match is I have a flagpole, and I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. It's like just a big pole, and there's Steve Carino's head, and I line it up like a pool cue, and I just go, and I fucking right in his face, and I break his nose, man.
Right.
It was like one of the dumbest things I don't know what I was expecting to happen, and I broke his fucking nose, man. And I loved Steve Carino was one of my favorites when I was like 14 watching ECW. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I bought him chocolate cake and some marijuana afterwards.
Oh, there you go. And his nose looks fine now. He just won the PWF North Carolina title, so I think he's doing all right for himself. He has a pretty sweet gig nowadays. You wrestle Josh Abercrombie and Midlow. You wrestle Ian and Salem, and then we get to May 21st. A Country Boy Can Survive. This is you defeating Brandon Tomaselli as the IWA World Champion for the NWA Indiana title, which was like a Ed Schumann project. And then later on in that night, we come back with a 8-man tag of Brandon Tomaselli, James Gibson, Josh Abercrombie, and Trick Davis, defeating BJ Whitmer, Jimmy Jacobs, Sal, and Vito Tomaselli in an 8-man elimination match that went 65 minutes and 20 seconds. Me and Jim talked about it on my episode for I don't know if it was a respect thing with Ian, but whenever anyone, it didn't matter if you were a guy first night in the business or a legend, when anybody came to IWA, no matter what the crowd was, like everyone like busted their ass. And we jokingly called it the IWA way. It doesn't matter if there's 50, 500, 5,000,
IWA never had 5,000.
Right, true. 500, 501. We're going to give the crowd, even though Ian would come out and be like, hey, all the people here, tell your friends to come to these shows, when he should be yelling at the people that aren't at the shows, but I digress. People always worked their ass off and wrestled like it was WrestleMania, wrestled like it was, a giant show. And, people would expect, Jamie Noble to come in and, just do, 10-minute match, 12-minute match, whatever. And he did, all you guys had a singles match on that show and then went into the 8-man tag, a bunch of chicanery, people getting involved in matches, whatever. And I don't know if Ian came to you guys and said, hey guys, I need 60 minutes here. I got to sell some DVDs, or, you guys were just on one that night and decided, let's just, have a killer 8-man tag. But I mean, it definitely sold some tapes. It definitely sold some DVDs because people, once they heard that, it was like the Too Cold Scorpio 8-man of years past. Like people were like, oh, they had a crazy 8-man. I have to see this. And people definitely wanted to see that match. You have any memories of that show? Like I said, before we started recording, there's 35 people, if that, at this show. Like
Rensselaer, was it?
It was
Vincennes, maybe?
Vincennes, yes.
Vincennes.
And Jimmy, a lot of people don't know, but like Ian would book the building and then never go to the town to fly or local promote or anything like that. So it's like, it's like Field of Dreams. Like if you build it, they will come. They will not come if they don't know that there's wrestling happening at the National Guard Armory that night. They will not. And they did not come, 35 people, 40 is being generous for this crowd. Any memories of this night? You beat Brandon for the NWA Indiana State Championship, and then you go on to have that 8-man later on. Any memories of that?
I mean, I remember that the match happened.
Yes.
And that we went a long time. I think does it come down to me and Noble probably?
I believe so. There's a ref
imagine.
bump. There's a bunch of chicanery where he hits something, he drapes the arm over, the ref comes to 1, 2, 3, and the 30 people there are super pumped that Jamie Noble.
Well, we used to say, yeah, we're working for the DVD, but there's probably a lot of just like masturbation there.
Yeah.
Because like, look, like I said, I just wanted to be in the ring. Like, when I talk about like, hey, I had 5 matches in a day. I loved that. I wanted to have 5 matches in the day. I want to, if you were like, hey, wrestle twice on this show, and one of the matches just take, take as long as you want. And we did. I did. We did. And I'm sure like I'm in that ring just like fucking loving it. Just I'm sure you can see me on the apron fucking calling spots, going, hey, tell him to fucking move to an elimination here. Tell him to like I loved like just like directing traffic. I loved the dance. I loved the dance of like like just being in there and and dancing. The there's choreography, but like being there in the moment to feel what's going on, to go, all right, let's do this now. Let's do this. Like I loved that.
Yeah, and Jamie Noble coming straight off that WWE TVs and Ring of Honor. I don't think he's won the title yet, but he's one of those guys that got released or asked for his release or got fired or whatever, and then he's making towns every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He's driving from West Virginia. He's driving to every IWA show. Ian never flew him in. He drove. He was wasn't the highest paid guy on the show by any means. He was very reasonable, so that's why Ian used him a ton. And it really kind of lit a spark on the indies at that time with him coming back and being like, let's do this. Let's, I want to prove that I belong. And, he got re-signed, however many months later after, winning the Ring of Honor title and doing all these indies. I always had pleasant interactions with Jamie Noble, James Gibson, whatever you want to call him, during that run. And I thought he was just a great dude. We go from May 21st of 2005 to Something to Prove, which is 6/11. 2005, that is our ECW arena debut, obviously known infamously for Joe versus Necro in the main event. You have a gauntlet against Eric Cannon, Chris Hero, and Danny Daniels. Obviously you had wrestled in the ECW arena a bunch with CZW and stuff, but as a top guy, as the world champion here for IWA, here you are in a gauntlet at the ECW arena. Any memories of that match?
I remember Joe versus fucking Necro. That I remember. I mean, if memory serves me right, this was it a Friday show?
I think it was a Saturday, and we ran
Saturday
in the afternoon. And
Saturday
then CZW ran that night.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the week before. If I remember this correctly, the week before it was like Friday I was in Iowa, Saturday I was in Buffalo, Sunday I was in Detroit, Monday I did Raw in St. Louis, Tuesday SmackDown in Kansas City, and then drove home, and then for Wednesday and Thursday we left for Philly or something like that. Again, I was a fucking lunatic. I don't remember anything about the gauntlet at all. I remember
Gotcha.
Necro and Joe. I remember sitting at the fucking up in the thing, that
Eagle's Nest. Everybody
Eagle's
was
Nest.
up there.
Eagles Nest, watching that, and the electricity in that room was second only to Joe Kobashi.
Right. Yeah. Insane match. It'll never be, replicated or anything like that. We go from there to July 1st. Jim Fannin manages Jimmy Jacobs against Ian Rotten, and you guys do damage to his shoulder in a no contest. You had wrestled Ian in 2003, but this is the first time as champion. You're wrestling him. You're, I would imagine, more heel than you were. You were the Husk Kid, before when you wrestled him. You're wearing the suit, and Fannin says, you're wearing the suit. You took pride as a champion. Fannin on commentary, is putting you over as this is what a champion looks like. This is how this is how you this is how I see a champion. And Jimmy is that perfect reflection of that. The suit, holding the title like Ric Flair did, and the sunglasses and cutting promos. Is that really when you started coming into your own in terms of that kind of character where, you're the man, you're the top guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning here, right? And I learned a lot as IWA champion. One of the things was the the task of going on after everybody. That was one of them. And one of the things I learned, I pretended I was Ric Flair. Basically, I'm like a parody of a parody of a parody of fucking Ric Flair, and I like some of it. I just cringe when I watch because I'm just like ah, God, look at me trying, look at me fucking like trying to sell Goofy and trying to, But that's how you learn. The same thing with the Huss stuff. Like it's interesting, I like watching some of this old IWA stuff and even CZW stuff from like '03. Like that first, it's just kind of like I'm just kind of doing Huss, and then it's like Huss on the tights, and then Huss in the music, and Huss, and it's kind of like I'm leaning into like a kind of like a Brody thing, and then it starts to get like silly a little bit. Like I'm going, okay, I've got this character. What is the character? And I get a little fucking goofy with it, and I'm like it's like more, it's like silly, it's almost like hokey. And the same thing sort of happened as champion, where like I turned up too much in one direction. That was it was a little silly sometimes, and I have zero recollection of the Ian Rock. I remember our first match because I was 19 and scared in '03.
Yeah.
I remember we had a match at TPI '03, which I watched, which wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad match. I have zero recollection of it.
Right.
Well, I have a lot of recollection of it because
what town was it in?
Salem, Indiana. So probably about a half hour, 40 minutes from Louisville.
I remember saying
down in Salem. And, I wanted to be with you in that match. It was the night before War Games. But as Nick had said, I loved you as the IWA champ at that point with everything that Nick said. You had the suit, you had the look, you were doing, like the title. I loved the fact that, you were using a weapon in almost every match. And it was like and your promos would be, you're going to have to pry this title out of my cold, dead hands, that it was like the most important thing in the world to you. And you made it mean something. And I loved that. I wanted you on my War Games team. That's I put you in the limo before the War Games match the next day and had you in the limo and was begging Ian because everybody knew I couldn't stand JC Bailey. It made no sense in the world for JC Bailey to be on my team. And I would never have wanted him, and it was only Ian doing the, putting me in my place and showing me that he was the boss and making me do shit I didn't want to do. But I kept going, please give me Jimmy. This makes much more sense. Let Jimmy be the one. And so I left before JC even got there. So you would have to be the one in the limo, just to make it make sense for me. And so I remember that match, and we worked over his shoulder, and like that was going to be the thing is, he's going to go into War Games where he's going to have one bad arm. And then you're in the limo, you help us take out Brandon Tomaselli. So it's like, oh, the, Team IWA is down 2 people, before the show even begins kind of deal. And I mean, that was supposed to be my retirement. That was supposed to be my last match, doing anything on the shows because I had burnt out after Candido had passed and the stuff that was like going on behind the scenes. You talked about your like lovesick time for Becky Bayless. I was lovesick at the time for Mickey Knuckles. And, I didn't want to be around the show anymore at that point. So I was like, I'm going out the way I want to go out. And I got the limo so I could do the Horseman. And you were Ric Flair. You were the champion, put you in the limo. You belonged there. You belonged on the team. And I'll go to my grave saying that you should have been on the damn team inside that War Games match instead of the way it was. But, that's just how it shook out. But you're on the back, I've got the Fannin family t-shirt on. Your name's on the back of it because I managed you in Salem against Ian Rotten in that one match. So you're on the shirt with the 50 other damn names that are back there of people that I managed in IWA.
You also managed me versus Mark Wolf too, which I recently watched. We barely did anything with it though. Like I'm watching it going like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like Jim Fannon's like you're like the ring announcer and you're like, and and his opponent managed by Jim Fannin. Like you drop this bomb. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, cause I'm like a nobody and I'm a new kid there. And so you'd get the established fucking heel manager. But we barely did anything with it. I'm like, why didn't we tell this like whatever? I remember shooting something in the limo that day. It was a Valparaiso. But yeah, I mean, I was in like a cold match with uh, Matt Seidel on that show, which I remember because it was such like a cold, nothing happening match. Not the match was bad; it's just there was no story behind it.
Right.
That
Right.
I start the match by saying, "Hey, I'm in my suit," and I'm going like, "Hey, I've got a limo out back. Let's just do coke tonight in the limo instead of wrestling." And then like he attacks me and he strips me down. And I end up wrestling. I'm just in like a fucking speedos and dress shoes. It's like classic fucking Jimmy Jacobs shit. Yeah, that's what I remember about that.
Yeah, it looks like the only Mark Wolf match you have besides that three-way is June 14th of '03, and that's when Jim was trying to take over IWA. Mark Wolf was the IWA champion, so that explains why he would manage you to try to get the title away from Mark Wolf for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It seemed like it could have been a decent little story, but we just in the match we barely did. We did something for the finish with it, but
Right.
like early on in the match, like if it was now, I'd be like, oh yeah, we fucking something. He gets me in a hammerlock. I fucking shoot him out of the ring, and then there's
Right.
Jim Fannin. He turns around, Jim's right there. Fucking something. He hits the ropes. Jim fucking this is the factor here. This is the
Right.
X factor. Jim Fannin. Is he gonna we gonna do any of that? But that's what he
Right.
team. And also I don't think me and Mark called fucking anything. Like I
Well,
watched
Probably not.
like you had mentioned before, you got the two different locker rooms. You don't
yeah.
see each other. You pass a note that's got 4 words written on it, and you go have a match from that. And
I remember one time someone was like, "Hey Nick, Tracy needs you," and I'm like, "What's this gonna be?" And he goes, "Hey kid, tell the guy that I'm wrestling to just listen to me and state row for the finish." And he was wrestling Superstar Steve from Harley Race's school, and I just went back in the heel locker room. I said, "Hey man, Tracy said just listen to him and state row," and he's like, "All right, got it." And they had a perfect match because he listened to the Wild Eyed Southern Boy Tracy Smothers.
It's
Uh,
fun. It's fun seeing these matches and going, how much did we have called here? And then
right.
going, I don't think we called much of anything here, because some of the matches look like that, and some of the matches don't. But yeah, there's
Right,
some
right.
there's some actually pretty decent. I have a very, like I said, I've been insecure my whole life, and I have a very like skewed perception of myself, I think. And so now that I have a little distance from those years and a little bit distance from like just being so insecure, I can look at this stuff and go, that's not bad. Like I
Right.
wasn't bad at 21. I thought I've been, this imposter syndrome of like
Yeah.
just fool everybody, your whole life. You go, no, actually I was in good shape. I'm like busting my ass and like I'm intense and like, yeah, yeah, it was a good time.
Uh, the 15th of July in Midlow, you beat Jerry Lynn as a title defense. You had wrestled Jerry Lynn a few times at this point in your career. Any memories of Jerry Lynn or just being around him? You're always worried about people coming in, from TV, from a top guy, a name, and then you meet someone like Jerry Lynn, and you're like, man, what a guy, what a nice human being, just a nice person. Any memories of Jerry Lynn or wrestling him quite a few times?
Yeah, Jerry and I wrestle a lot. He's a great guy. He's a great wrestler. We had that match. I think the first match we had was the King of the Death match '03, right? Which was a
Yes.
fucking hot crowd. We're the opening of that weekend. It was like a really. I watched that recently. It wasn't bad. Yeah, yeah. I was like working with Jerry.
Yeah, it looks like you wrestled him a bunch for AAW, obviously ACW in Texas, and then quite a few times for Ring of Honor during the Age of the Fall run. We skip ahead a little bit. In October of 2005, IWA cancels a show causing you, Jimmy Jacobs, to scramble to find another booking. You find an AAW show where you wrestle Brad Bradley and you lose in under 8 minutes.
Hold up.
Okay.
As IWA champion, he lost.
Yes.
Okay, I'm pissed.
Uh-oh.
Now I'm pissed because Dave Prazak, Brad Bradley, and Danny Daniels quit IWA on a show that Ian Rotten wasn't even at. I'm running. And they come to me and they were pissing and moaning the entire goddamn night because tag champion of Ring of Honor, BJ Whitmer, was asked to lose a match on the IWA show, and how disrespectful that is to have a champion from another, promotion asked to, put somebody over on your show, and they quit.
This was an important thing to them, right? It was in Heron.
It might have been Heron, I think.
What it was as far as I remember, Jimmy and BJ
that was
never
a scumbag.
tagged.
No, that was a scumbag move by Ian. That was a scumbag move.
They had never tagged in IWA.
That's right.
And they were Ring of Honor tag champions.
That's right.
And he wanted them to lose to the Iron Saints.
That's right. Yeah, he scumbagged us. Yeah,
and I'm not saying that it's not a scumbag move, but they got so pissed off that was being asked, and then Danny Daniels has you lose.
But that's intentional. That's an intentional. Me and BJ have never teamed up before. We're tag champs in ROH, and he goes, "Hey, ROH tag champs, come here and fucking lose." Like that's what that is. That there's no two ways about that. And I'm grateful that fucking BJ had the balls to fucking stand up to that, because I didn't have the balls to stand up for it, but I knew it was wrong too.
And that's fine, right, but I'm just saying, if it's so wrong, they shouldn't be asking you to lose as IWA champion. So.
Well, but I had an IWA show that day, but it was canceled, so I didn't have to lose that day.
Right. We go from that to November of 2005. Thanksgiving fell on the 24th of that month. I believe the original plan was to run Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and then a Saturday loop, as well as some shows in December. Due to Ian's wife, my sister Patty, having some complications with her third pregnancy, Patty didn't want to be 5 or 6 hours away from home that close to her due date. If you know James Christopher, if you know the story there, when he was born, he did have to have open heart surgery and had to have surgery like as a newborn. He's gone on to have another surgery, so he did have some issues in terms of health issues. So it's probably good that they weren't so far away from home. But obviously, that's a problem for the competitors that are only wrestlers, and wrestling is their job. Unfortunately, the old IWA message boards got deleted when new ownership took over in 2011. So the real-time posts are unfortunately gone. I did see in like old live journals and reports that people like Eric Cannon, who was a regular on those shows, he found out from a friend rather than IWA management that hey, all these shows are canceled. So on November 26th, during Cameron Cage and Mikey Lee that night at AAW's first annual Windy City Classic, Jimmy Jacobs hits the ring, causing a no contest. You grab the microphone and you cut this promo. You dreamed of holding a title like the IWA title when you first started. You wasn't supposed to be in Berwyn tonight. You're supposed to be wrestling Spike Dudley in Midlow. IWA canceled 4 shows, and because of that, you cannot pay your rent on December 1st. As a kid, you really wanted a Power Ranger action figure. You begged your parents for one, and on Christmas morning, you finally got it. And then within minutes, the arms break off, and you realized it was trash, just like this IWA title. You talk about how you gave up college, you gave up your education for Ian Rotten, and you threw the IWA title in the trash can. You said AAW would never be a second commitment, a backup for you. It's now your priority. You're not here to curtain jerk. You're not here to wrestle Alex Shelley 15 million times. You're here to be the main event. So let's get into this, and then we'll kind of break it down because it says that you talked to Ian the very next day, and we have old live journals and stuff of that nature that we can talk about. So you go in. It's November of 2005. I assume, get a call from Ian, or maybe you just see it on the internet. You see it on the IWA board or social media or whatever. No IWA shows. So what's your thought process here?
Yeah, it's not the first time that happened, right? We're saying like this happened the month before
Right.
too, and who knows how many other times, right? It was just like part of the risk of working for Ian. So I forget how I found out, but I remember the first text I sent afterwards was to Danny Daniels, and jokingly I go, "Hey, Ian canceled his shows. Maybe it's time to throw the belt in the trash," because he had made a joke about that. Anytime you want to come and throw his belt in the trash, let me know. So I joked back. Now here we are, and so then we start talking about it, like a little like half serious, and I go, let me just talk to Ian. And so I call Ian and I tell him my situation. I say I'm $200 short on my rent. I need $200. This is what I need. It's supposed to be, whatever. There's 3-4 shows that weekend. I was making $100 a night for him at that point. So that's $300 or $400, but I'm short $200 on my rent. My rent was like $350 at that point. And he goes, "Yeah, no problem. I'll send it to you." And this is a few days, I believe, before I threw the belt in the trash. So it was days. I want to say it was early in the week. He canceled the show. And he says he's going to send me the money. And I tell Danny, like, "Hey, Ian says he's going to send me the money, but I'd still like to do your show." So I go to a show with the IWA belts because Ian still hasn't fucking sent me the money. And basically it was like, "Hey, I can put you on, and you can wrestle. I'll give you," it was like $20 to put you on last minute. Like, it was like next to nothing. Or, I'll give you the $200 you need to throw the belt in the trash. And that's what I did. I wasn't particularly proud of it. I remember, like, I asked Jerry Lynn, I was like, what do you think? And Jerry was like, "Yo, if this is your job and Ian can't fucking, not throw Jerry under the bus or anything like that."
Yeah,
But,
right.
I wasn't taking it lightly.
He had been there with Paul Lee, I'm sure, in terms of
right.
he didn't take his gear to a show, and he had to wrestle in somebody's shorts because he didn't think he was going to get paid. Paul Lee paid him, and he had to wrestle in someone's workout shorts. This says the next day Ian talked to JACOBS to find out what he was thinking. You said he was taking a payday. You thought it'd be easier to get forgiveness than permission.
It was that.
Oh, you talked to him that night?
Yeah. So basically what happens is I go, and I was completely like, I wasn't proud of it. I was completely like about it. The pictures show up. I mean, this is 2005, and the pictures show up like online, like on a message board. Like,
I found the picture. I found the picture on the Wayback Machine.
Like real time, which was like crazy to me at that. I remember like thinking like, whoa, the pictures are up, like it just happened. Ian calls me up, and I was like, I got like drunk. I got like wasted that night, like almost like maybe blackout drunk. And I'm like crying. I'm like, "I'm sorry, Ian," and whatever. And then the next day we talk as well, because Ian was really hurt. He was just like, "Out of everybody, I didn't expect this out of you," and whatever. He was hurt. The next day we talk, and we made the plan. He's gonna just what he was gonna announce, and that I was gonna stay there. And then he told me, "I'll send you the $200 I said I would send you." He told me again he was gonna send me the money. I have not seen that $200. Just by the way. By the way, he told me, he bookended me throwing the belt in the trash with him telling me he was going to give me the money, and he didn't give me the money. I was thinking about this before this interview, and I haven't even it hadn't occurred to me until now. At 21, I didn't think this was the case, but now I can look at it and I go, there's a part of me that was like, "Hey, fuck you, Ian." There's a part of me that was like sick of playing the stupid game of, "Oh, my PayPal got broken into or hacked into, my fanny pack got stolen, my fuck." It's like, if we're gonna play dumb games, let's play fucking dumb games then. And I think there's a part of me that Like, could I have gotten $200 another way? Almost certainly. Like almost certainly I could have borrowed $200 from somebody. I chose to fucking do that. Partly as a like fuck you.
Right.
But I was too much of a coward at that point in my life to ever just say like, "Hey man, you're fucking lying to me. I'm sick of you lying to me. I don't deserve to be lied to." You can just say you lost the money somewhere or you don't have the money. It's okay. Like it's fine. Just stop fucking lying to me about it. So
Right.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, just to go with that, according to Rotten, he was sent an email to call him and get money to pay his rent due to the cancellations. He went to Smart Mark Video to send Jimmy some cash out of his account, but before you could get back to Jimmy, you had already thrown the title in the trash. You said it was days before. It wasn't,
I think
just a
so.
1 day thing or a 1 night thing. So,
No.
this doesn't sound.
You would have
Yeah,
to look to see the day that he canceled the show, but I want to say it was like on a Monday or something like that. It was a few days, and I talked to him on the phone. Because I remember I was in the gym when I fucking talked to Ian on the phone, and he said he would send me the money, and I felt so relieved. I go,
right.
oh, good. I don't have to walk. I don't have to play this fucking get in this game that we're
Right.
about to get into, and
So Jim, I try to, Wayback has so much stuff, but unfortunately, all this real time stuff on the old IWA message board that was deleted, you click on it, there's no, history of it. So I was so upset about that. But, Jim, there's, it says like IWA's response to Jimmy Jacobs incident. And then it's like, James Christopher is born, just like in real time, bam, 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 bam. So Jim, you're probably in Louisville at the time. Or are you maybe
I'm
still in Morris?
no, I'm in Morris.
Okay.
I think my memory of it is I had, my bedroom at the house had a computer in there, and like Mickey was there, and she's looking at the computer, and then she goes, "Did you know about this?" And I was like, "Do I know about what?" And she's like, "Evidently Jimmy just threw the trash in the title at Danny's show." And I think the hole might still be in the ceiling where I jumped through the roof. What the fuck did you just say happened? Um, Hearing Jimmy's recollection of events, um, blood's boiling right now, not at Jimmy Jacobs, but at the fact that this whole fucking thing could have been avoided if Ian Rotten would have just told me, "Hey, I know you're already in fucking tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. What the fuck is another $200 to not have our title belt thrown into a goddamn trash can? Will you float me $200 to send out so this doesn't happen?"
Right.
I would have done it in a heartbeat to avoid the whole mess.
Think about changing history. If you gave him
Right.
that $200, and
Um,
at that time, AAW was just kind of starting to pick up some motion here. It was kind of a smaller promotion, and then in June or July of '05, here comes Jerry Lynn. They're adding more matches and stuff like that. And this was really like the shot in the arm that AAW needed in terms of uh, people knowing who they are. People wanted to see what was next. They wanted to see what Jimmy was going to do. They wanted to see, it was really a an opening shot in the war of Chicagoland when it came to AAW and IWA Mid South. Uh, do you feel like you really helped influence that, Jimmy? Do you feel like am I remembering it like that correctly, or do you not agree that I feel like this put AEW on the map essentially. Like, it's early YouTube, it's early like streaming video stuff online, and they instantly have it on their homepage. They instantly have it, on all their MySpace pages or whatever they have, Jimmy dropping that belt in the garbage. Do you recall that, Jimmy? Do you think that really gave AEW the platform?
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it was the thing that started to put AAW on the map. Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, and I'm not even defending it because again, I think it was a total piece of shit thing to do. Again, it was a coward. What happened is I was a coward. That's what happened. Like if I wasn't a coward, I would have called Ian again and going, "Hey, do you have that money that you said you're going to send me?" No, okay. Well, I've got your title. I'm going to throw it in the trash if you don't send me that money. Like I would have just been an adult about it, not making threats. That again, it's a bit of a threat, but it's like it's just being direct about it. It wouldn't like hidden. But having said that, like I think it was like interesting for IWA too. Like if I take myself out of it and look back at it. Of course, at the time it was like, you go, oh my God, I did this thing. This is horrible. Blah, blah, blah. But I thought the way Ian handled it wasn't the way to do it. I mean, I get why you make the fucking, release the statement that says, yeah, Jimmy just did it for the money, da 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 da, and whatever. But like, I remember thinking like, isn't it obvious what should happen? You fucking say Jimmy Jacobs been stripped of the title. He's been fucking fired from IWA. We're doing a tournament. We're gonna crown a new fucking champion, and then somebody wins the title, and then once they win the title, I show up and fucking jump him after the match. And then it's like, and you're off to the fucking races. And then, you can have that guy beat me. And then you can do all the stuff with fucking Bull Payne and fucking New Jack and whatever. Jimmy's gonna fucking get his punishment in. But fucking play with that just for a second, man. Just going, no, it's all, it was, what he did was, it was kind of like, we're still work and he's still in the company and, it's like, no, man, fucking let people fucking sit in that and then let me fucking show up and people go, fuck, was it a work the whole fucking time? What the fuck's happening? Like, whatever, man.
Yeah, I think Ian was so fired up and so pissed about it that he couldn't even, not until, months later when, the Bull Payne, the New Jack, all that stuff starts, falling into place. I don't think he even, as good of a booker and as good as, all his ideas were, and sometimes you'd be like, what is he thinking? And then 3 months later you finally get to the end of the storyline, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. He's planted this seed to build this, to for this flower to bloom essentially. And I think he was just so fired up and so upset about it. No one had ever disrespected the title like that, so he couldn't even, he had to immediately make, his wrestling brain didn't work. It was his real life brain, to be like, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening. I'm gonna kill Jimmy Jacobs with Bull Payne and New Jack and all this stuff. And then it says in your live journal, you're really hamming it up. It's heaven to see smart marks in a buzz. You can almost see them jerking off. Was it a work? Was it a shoot?
I'm
OMG.
saying this.
Yeah. This is from your
wait,
live journal.
Hold on. Is my live journal still accessible online?
This entry was through Wayback.
Okay. I don't know what Wayback is.
Yeah. If you, because archive.org has archived so many web pages over the years. And I assume from so many people clicking this, and because even the picture, which the picture's from Photo Bucket or wherever it's from, was still active on this page that I clicked. So I have the picture of you and Danny with the money, at the bar after the show, and you're talking all this stuff, and I made a quick buck with my belt. Say what you will about wrestling, but that's my belt. It's still my belt. I worked for it. I sacrificed for it. I wrestled hundreds of matches for it. I'll be at the next IWA show to defend that championship because that's what I do. Ian called me today, said, "Kid, you can either send me the belt or defend it against Bull Payne. Fucking bring it." And then at that point, Ian had made an ultimatum on, the message boards or maybe just to the locker room. If you work for Danny, you can't work for me. If you work for me, you can't work for Danny. And you say, as for his statement, people have to choose IWA or AEW. Fuck that. If IWA wants to pay me, great. If AEW wants to pay me, great. Nobody tells me where to work and where not to work. So, obviously you said you talked to Jerry Lynn. Shane Douglas was also on that AEW show. Was that kind of influence? Did
No,
him
just
throw down?
apropos.
Okay,
Yeah.
just happened to be there, right?
One of those synchronicities.
Right. So, we kind of talked about, the trashing of the title, and then, it's a month later in Streamwood, you against Bull Payne. Jim Fannin comes out with Bull Payne the first time. They had worked together for so long. The first time they had ever joined forces, and Jim cuts the scathing promo and just, I want him to black your eyes. I want him to break your arm. I want him to do all this. And he's pretty much given himself an alibi to the Smart Mark video camera of saying, like, if this happened, if he dies, it's purely by accident. We didn't plan it this way. And then, the camera zooms off of him or pans away from him. And then he turns to Bull and he goes, fucking kill him. And, Bull's fired up. The fans are fired up. It's a real weird dynamic where you're the heel and Bull Payne's the baby face, but only by proxy, not because, he's tagging hands, but, and the fans, especially at that Streamwood show, are amped up. They are fired up. They're ready to see Bull Payne beat your ass. Jim's out there with the barbed wire bat. You're playing the Memphis chicken shit heel. You're running. You're out of the ring. You're in the ring. You're getting away from Bull, and then finally he gets you, and you guys have your match. Obviously, you and Ian had talked at that time, and you knew, okay, this is what this is going to be. This is what we're doing here. Was there any thoughts in your head of like, oh man, Bull Payne's gonna fucking shoot on me? I know it. Or did you think? Did you know that Bull was a pro?
But for New Jack,
Yeah.
I was scared. For New Jack,
Right.
I called up Ian. I think I was drunk again. This is crying again, drunk and crying.
Yes.
I don't want New Jack to beat me. I don't want New Jack to kill me. And he's like, kiddo, why would I pay New Jack $500 to kill you when Corporal Robinson will do it for free? Like, that's a good point.
True facts on that one. Jim, what do you have to say about that first night? Managing Bull in the Streamwood, and it was the Strong Style tournament, so we had a ton of people there. It was a good crowd. It was really a perfect atmosphere, I think, for that match. And like I said, they see Bull Payne coming out, and people are like, yeah, like fans are like freaking out, like, oh, some shit's going down. Jim, any memories of that Streamwood show?
My memories of this time frame is, Jimmy, you probably owe your life to my grandmother, because at this point in my life, if my grandma had not still been alive, I probably would be spending the rest of my life in prison right now. Because I was so mad. It wouldn't have been Corporal Robinson that would have done it for free. I would have done it with a car. The bat almost did it. At the show after the Streamwood show, it was, the amount of money that I had put into the company, the way I looked at my life at that point, IWA was the only thing that I had in my life. It was what I lived for. It was what I breathed for. Look at me. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I didn't think marriage was in my future. I figured all I'm going to have in my life is IWA. And, I had wanted out. Like I just said earlier in this podcast, I had burnt out. I had no intentions of lasting much longer after War Games. And, it was like The Godfather. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And, then the shit happened on Danny's show and I'm pulled back in. And So I'm pissed that I'm pulled back in, and I'm pissed that Ian didn't fire your ass and let you come back. And I'm like, I have to deliver a message. And I'm like, if Jimmy Jacobs, who I actually liked and who I actually respected and, thought was a damn fine champion, if you were going to do that, then I had to make sure that nobody else on the show ever thought about taking it. So I was like, I got to make sure that the message that's delivered is so loud and so clear that nobody else would be brave enough if Danny Daniels had come to them and said, here's a wad of cash, do whatever. And so, I mean, the promo I cut in Streamwood was probably 100% exactly how I felt at that moment in time. And telling Bull to kill him, I would have been, at that point, I would have been fine if that's what Bull had done. So that was the thoughts that I had, Nick.
At that point, did all of you come together with Ian to talk about, obviously for 2006 TPI, you guys, got on the phone and talked over some plans or whatever. But before that, here in 2005 December, did you guys get together? Was anything like that where it's like, okay, this is how this is gonna go, or was it just, see you out there, kid, and whatever happens happens?
I definitely don't remember a big like conference or anything beforehand. I know that happened before the TPI 06.
Yeah.
But definitely not at that point, I don't think. Do you remember anything, Jimmy?
I don't remember either. Yeah.
Okay, so it was probably just, Jimmy, you're booked against Bull, and then, the match happens. The next thing we have in the timeline is that Plainfield show with the bat shot. Obviously, that's a famous point in the feud. Jimmy, how did you feel? You're fighting all these people, but you also got to worry about Jim on the floor, Jim with a weapon, and Jim, who's not a trained wrestler, hitting you as hard as he can with a bat. How were you feeling at this point? Were you like, man, what am I doing here? Or was it like, well, I gotta take my lumps because I, threw it in the trash? What was your feelings at this time?
I don't know, man. That Plainfield show, I don't know if people know what happened at that show. Jim, what's your side of that day?
Well, I think I started it, saying it on the stream. I knew you were leaving the next night. I knew you were like dropping the title to Cannon the next night, and that you were going to be gone. So I knew that it was my last chance to deliver the message that I wanted to deliver. Before going out there, I had no intention. The bat shot wasn't in my head at that point. I was just going to let Bull Payne, beat the hell out of you inside the cage. I think we did the spot where I like clotheslined you, or he like threw you into me and clotheslined. I don't think anything was stiff, but I don't think it was brutal or anything. So we did the spot with like the clothesline. I think we redid the spot from Stream, because I think Streamwood, I threw you through all the chairs. So we redid that one where I tried to knock down more chairs than I did in Streamwood. And then I think it was after that spot, like you threw the can at me and cussed me out or something. And I just snapped at that moment. And I was like, all right, now you're eating the bat. And that was like what was going through my head. And like I said, when I pulled back the bat, it was probably 60% aim for the back, 40% aim for the back of the head. But not wanting my grandma to have to go through a murder trial. I was like, the 60% won, and I swung for the back. but with enough behind it that, you know, it was like the movie, The Program, where about the college football team and the middle linebacker said, hit him so hard that his girlfriend dies. I knew I was never going to get my hand on Danny Daniels. So I was trying to hit Jimmy Jacobs so hard that Danny Daniels would feel it and die from it. But, you know, that was what was going through my head.
All right.
So,
So
like-
I've never, people don't know what happened. I've never told the story
Let's hear it.
about what actually happened that day. And
Exclusive.
thank you. And look, thanks for not fucking taking my head off, man. You could, like, yes, yes, Jim hit me fucking hard, but at least he hit it in like the meat of my back. And I remember, like, I was like, it was hurt-ish, sore or whatever for a bit. It wasn't like nothing. But yeah. Definitely could have fucked me up. Here's what happened. This is like the whole thing of it's fucking scandalous, man. So the week before, maybe 2 weeks before, there was a show in Midlothian.
Yep, that's the canon match. He wins by DQ.
Yeah. So Ian used to do this thing where he would say personal information about people on the microphone without talking about it to them beforehand. And he did it to, I want to say it was the Tomasellis. I feel bad, like I don't want to rope them into this, but
Right.
there was some talent.
He did it often enough that it could have been the Tomasellis. It could have been anyone because, you know, he felt like shooting, you know, if 3 people in the crowd know this, then they'll be like, they'll bite on it because this is a shoot type thing.
Right. So there was a couple of guys, there's somebody, I forget who, that was pretty upset by something Ian said on the microphone. And I remember saying to them, fuck that. Ian's got skeletons in his closet. Like if he fucking, you know, if he were to do that to me, I would fucking do it back to him. And that's what happened. So in Midlothian, he makes a fucking comment on the microphone about, and that's why, you know, Becky Bayless left you for the lead singer, Breaking Benjamin. And I retort about something about Patty, which I wasn't proud of, and it's not kind, but it was just kind of like, hey, don't fucking throw stones over here. So before the cage match with me and Bullpain pulls me aside. He goes, hey, Ian's pissed about what you said about Patty. Now, of course, Ian didn't say anything to me about it because he's a coward. Like I'm a coward. See, this is what I'm talking about. The game is just like this stupid game of like sneaking around and going and fucking each other from behind. I don't want to play the game. So Bull goes, Ian's pissed about this and he wants me to fucking kick your ass tonight. But I'm not going to kick your ass. But we're going to make it seem like I kicked your ass. So some of the stuff's going to be a little tight, but we're going to make it seem like I beat you up out there. And so I believe the finish of the match is me leaving the match. I just leave.
Yeah, you like climb the cage and run.
Yep. And I come to the back and Ian goes, what the fuck kind of finish was that, kiddo? And I go, I don't want to get my ass kicked anymore, finish, Ian. What the fuck was that out there? And I start yelling at him, and then fucking Jim and fucking Bull come to the back, and they fucking start yelling, what the fuck was that? Jim's fucking yelling at me, going, see that? You're not fucking welcome here. And everybody's fucking yelling. Ian starts crying, going, I can't do this anymore. I can't. That's it. Tomorrow's my last show. I can't do this anymore. He's crying because he thought what he just ordered to happen happened. He ordered a hit out on me. He thought it happened. And now he's crying about it. He's the one that's like, I can't do this. And then Bull and I go, hey, Bull, can I talk to you? Go to the back. Go, hey, everything go all right? It's like, yeah, man, no problem. I go, great. Thank you. And that was it. I was like, all right, Ian, I'll fucking come tomorrow. I'll drop the fucking belt and I'm out of here.
Right. And you're gone from, you don't return until TPI, where you cost Tyler Black the match against Josh Raymond or Josh Abercrombie at the time, right? Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah. So
we both interfere to help Josh.
So like you said, you beat Cannon and Midlow. That's in January of 2006, and then it's the TPI is in September, I believe.
Yeah.
So before that, there's a phone call where Ian puts you guys on the phone. You guys, make a truce. The heat was dead, and we're gonna work together here to, have your return at the 2006 TPI tournament. Jim, obviously there was a lot for that show, a lot of stuff that people don't know in terms of people getting to the building and stuff of that nature. So I'll let you take it away here to, I guess, talk about the phone call first, what you remember of it, if Jimmy remembers it, and then we'll go into the TPI.
Well, what I remember of the phone call is I'm driving and Ian's sitting beside me and he's got, Jimmy on the phone and they're talking and making the plans for the comeback. And Jimmy, I can't hear what Jimmy's saying because he's on the phone with Ian. But Ian looks at me and he goes, Jimmy needs assurances that you're not going to try to kill him anymore. And he's like, will you get on the phone with him and tell him that you will not try to kill him? And so Ian hands me the phone while I'm driving. And, we just have a short conversation of like, as far as the fans are concerned, they're going to think that it's a shoot, because if they're going to buy a ticket to see me, they got to think that I'm ready to kill somebody. And I was like, but, I'll work with you. Bringing you back is going to help attendance. You're a draw. And, if we're going to do this angle, everybody, including the other wrestlers, have to think it's still a shoot, or else why would they buy a ticket to see me,
Right.
And it was a short conversation. And then we do the TPI deal. Bull and Mitch break down in Indianapolis. I jump into the car and drive 120 miles an hour to get down to Indianapolis to pick them up, because I want to do the bad motherfuckers angle and get them, drive back 120 miles an hour to make it back to the show. And we get back like as Josh and Tyler are going to the ring. So we don't even really have time to like go over exactly how it's supposed to play out. And I think Vince Jones gives me the spot of when I'm supposed to go out to interfere. And he gave me the wrong spot. So then I got to like squat out there and for like 5 minutes before they finally go to the spot that, and so everybody's sitting there watching and knows that I'm about to do something, but they don't know. They don't know whether I'm going to fuck Jimmy Jacobs' best friend, or, they also knew that I was not a fan of Tyler. So they're like, well, who's he going to screw over? So I guess it didn't kill the finish at that point.
Right.
But like we do the deal where I pull the ref out to stop a count or something to keep Tyler from getting the win. And then Jimmy comes in from outside or something.
Yep.
Not exactly sure. And I remember we're both in the ring and we like shake hands and you could hear like heads exploding in the first row of some of the fans that couldn't believe what they were about to see. And then I put Jimmy in the bear hug and hold him. And then Bull and Mitch come out and everybody's like, yes, now I see. And, and Josh is like crying, sorry that he sold Jimmy out and whatever. But I don't know what are your recollections of that, Jimmy?
I don't have any. I don't like that first run, the 03 to 05, really. Like that's like my time at IWA, and then I just like overstayed my welcome probably. I don't remember like a lot of what we did like coming back. Like I looked at the results and it was like I lose to Josh Abercrombie when I come back.
And that's not until January of the next year. So it must have been, we couldn't find a show that you both were at. Yeah.
Doing. Yeah. Like, and it's like me and Colt Cabana. Then we do a match with a Barbarian. That's like a bounty, which I'm assuming is part of this gimmick that we were.
Well, and I think what happened is like right after you come back, I think you tore your ACL or you blew out your knee.
That was in 07. That was in so I got surgery in April of 07. So from
so I mean this was like September of 06, and then like right away you beginning of 07, you like get hurt.
But like, it looks like we didn't, like, I wasn't even at a show or didn't have a match at least. I don't know. Was I at shows between
I don't
TPI
even.
and my match with
It,
Josh?
it doesn't look like that's when Wrestling Society X was going on. You know, you're working a bunch for Ring of Honor and AEW. You're not really, you know, the TPI is the return, and then you're not back until you know, that January, and then
That
it's
sucks.
sporadic.
That
of
sucks. It's like
yeah.
why bother fucking doing it then?
Right.
It's like, why bother? Like, again, I don't know what happened. Again, I don't know if it's like my schedule.
Well,
or
I
like,
think that, you know, it was TPI was going to be the biggest crowd, so do it in front of the most people maybe, and then just
yeah,
the calendar didn't work out with what you were available. I'm not sure.
yeah, because that should have been a fucking hot angle. Like, I shouldn't be sitting here going, yeah, I don't really have much memories of that.
Well,
Like,
and I mean,
yeah,
Go ahead.
it was all bull, you know, a bunch of bullshit because, you know, I bring in Mitch and Bull as the bad motherfuckers. They do like maybe he fires them every show because Mitch would fucking rib him, and you know they had the one breakdown, so then he would like call and be like, oh man, we broke down again, and they'd walk in the door 5 minutes later and he'd be like, fuck you, you're fired, fucking with me on show days and get the hell out of here. And it was like it just never went anywhere because then that might have been part of the reason why it took so long, is because he kept firing them, and it was so then we had to go to the where
The
I put the bounty
hunter.
out.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then I think I talked about this on the Ask Me Anything podcast, where it was like, you know, we bring in the barbarian, but it's the wrong barbarian. And I wanted people to like give me shit because I brought in, you know, I'm sitting there going, I'm bringing in your childhood hero to finish you off. And like maybe 2 people picked up that it was a different barbarian and would get on the message board and be like, it's the Berserker barbarian, not the Paul Jones Army barbarian. You got the wrong barbarian. And like, I wanted people to like pick up on that, but nothing. And yeah.
but yeah, right. It's like I got the match with Josh in January, Colt Cabana in February, and the Barbarian in April, and then I have knee surgery. So it's like it just it wasn't worth fucking bringing me fucking back for that. Fuck.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely, you know, and then you're just kind of there's a random match with Delirious and Devin Moore, and in August of '07 you're back for the TPI in '07, losing to Chuck Taylor in the first round. I believe you had a tag match the next night, or maybe you were not booked, but it's very sporadic, you know, kind of matches. You know, you're back on the the 11th anniversary show against Jack Thriller. I think he really had plans for you and Jack Thriller to feud, and then I think Jack got hurt.
Yeah, didn't he get beat up on his shoot job working at the
Someone like attacked him
juvenile
at his real
detention
job.
center, and somebody attacked him and hurt him?
Yeah. And then, you know, through '07 and '08, it's just like, you know, you'll pop up, you and Jack Thriller at the Rotten Farewell, which is supposed to be Ian's last match, and then a bunch of Ring of Honor matches. This is during the Age of the Fall, so you're, you know, in 2008. And then we get to the 500 show. I Quit with you and BJ. It was supposed to be you and Jack Thriller for that show, and Jack Thriller got injured. So I believe BJ hadn't been wrestling a bunch. So you and BJ get in the I Quit. And then that's when you and Jim start up again because he's managing BJ. You're wrestling Dingo. You guys have that no rope bar match, which, you know, deathmatch fans and fans all around the world have called like one of the best no rope bar matches of all time, just because, you know, you guys are doing different stuff. You're using the wire. You're doing all this craziness. Any thoughts about that series of matches?
Yeah, the I Quit match was good. I think that was the best match that me and BJ had, you know, including their stuff in Ring of Honor. I think it's up there. I really like the I Quit match, which I ended up using that same finish on with John Moxley a couple years later at Dragon Gate USA with the taking the railroad spike and stabbing the balls to make him quit.
A great finish.
Yeah, a good finish, right? And then the no rope barbed wire match I really didn't want to do. The story with that is BJ called me up. He called me up. He goes, "Hey man, Ian's about to call you and ask you to do a no rope barbed wire match. But we got to hold out for the right amount of money. He's like, I told him 1,000, like tell him 1,000. And I go, great, I'll tell him 1,000. Because to me in 2008,
Right.
$1,000 was like
No way.
$1 million to me. It was
Right.
$1 million
No
to me,
way.
and there's no way he would do it. So Ian called, sure enough, like 2 minutes later, Ian calls me up, and I go, boy, no rope barbed wire match, which I didn't want to do. Like,
Right.
I did not want to do a no rope barbed wire match because I'm a pussy. Like, I don't want to be fucking hurt. Fuck that. And I go, God, I don't know, Ian. I'd have to do it. It need to be like a lot of money. He's like, how much is a lot? I'm like, I don't know, like $1,000. He goes, oh, that's too much. I go, all right. And I was fine with that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and he called me back. He calls me back like, I don't know, half hour later, an hour later, whatever. And he goes, what if I pay you $750 the day of the show and then $250 later? I go, that's $1,000. Yeah, man. And so now it's fucking, I agree to this no rope barbed wire match, and I don't want to do. I'm scared of the barbed wire. Backstage, I start to have a couple beers to loosen the blood, to get the blood flowing. And then fucking Brody Lee has a bottle of Southern Comfort. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll have a little bit of that. And I got fucking wasted, dude.
Oh, wow.
I was fucking hammered for that match, with that no rope barbed wire match, because I was just scared of the barbed wire and I didn't want to fucking do it. I didn't want to be in that match, and I regret doing the match, and it was horrible. Like, I was fucking wasted. I finished the match. I drive to the airport. I sleep in the airport parking lot for like a couple hours. Like, there's no showers in Midlothian, right? I just,
Right.
I go to the airport. They pulled me over at TSA. Like at TSA, like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm a professional wrestler. I don't know. I've been going to fucking San Antonio. You're a pro wrestler? Yeah, I'm a pro wrestler. And here's some pictures. I'm like, why are these motherfuckers hassling me? Then I go into the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror for the first time, and there's dried blood still on my face, and I'm wearing a tank top, and I'm just like, my whole body's cut up. Like, it looks like I was in a knife fight and I'm looking to skip town. Yeah, those are my, and Ian paid
You went to
that,
Texas the next day. You were for
yeah,
ACW, so that's where you were flying to.
right. Yep. And like the people in Texas, one of the wrestlers there was like super gluing my back was like, I got fucking shredded on I got him in the guillotine, and he runs me into the barbed wire board, and the barbed wire just, I mean, if you watch it, you can watch on YouTube, you can see referee, Brian Gorey, like pulling the fucking barbs out of my back. Fucking just a huge scar right there. Yeah, I regret doing it. I was in a bad place personally, and it was not what I wanted to be doing professionally, and I did it for the money, and you should never do anything just for the money.
And he made good on that $1,000.
He did $750 that day, and he did pay the $250 later.
Wow. Jim, what's your memories of that series? You have the original feud over the title going in the trash, and then you have the feud over him coming back and you fucking him with the BMFs, and then this is, you guys had a run, over the years, and this is the third, little feud with, obviously BJ was your guy. Any memories of that? I remember Jim taking a bump or two in that match where BJ moved and Jimmy moved and BJ hit Jim, and Jim goes flying.
Yeah, I think I remember BJ hitting me with like a running kick because Jimmy had moved out of the way. That's like the only thing I remember.
Right.
As I've said on this podcast, by this point I was 1.5 foot out the door.
Right.
Not wanting to be around and just looking for my exit ramp to get out. And so I have like no memories from the Barbarian rolling out of the ring and Tracy sliding into the ring in that match.
Yeah, I forgot about Tracy
and redoing
in
we did another barbed wire bat shot at that point. Like, from that until the build up to what was supposed to be the end in 2009, like, you could tell me anything happened and I'd have no freaking clue about it. I do know that they had there was like the 2 BJ matches, but no memory.
Gotcha. Yeah. Then after the BJ match, you're kind of just, doing whatever, wrestling Chuck Taylor. There's a four-way with Bobby Fish, Chuck Taylor, and Josh Raymond. TPI '08, you lose to Claudio in the first round. The next night, you and Tyler wrestle the Soul Touches. Uh, there's a match with Dingo, match with Sammy Callahan. You win the light heavyweight title again, defeating Quick Carter Gray. Wrestling Drake Younger. Jason Hades beat you for that light heavyweight title. And then there's a bunch of just random stuff. You're wrestling Mike Seidel. You're wrestling Elgin. You're wrestling the Hooligans with Josh. Tony Kazina. Bucky Collins. You had a little bit of a... You had a few matches with Bucky Collins. And then that's after, Jim had already left in '09. Jimmy, did you have any second thoughts about, once, Ian shut down in August of '09, and then he's back in December of 2009 running a benefit show where you wrestled Mike Seidel. I don't know if you recall this show, Jimmy, but there's nobody at this show. It's a benefit for a little girl local to the area. Uh, Tyler Black wrestles Sal Tomaselli, the Hooligans and the Submission Squad. It's just like a real random kind of match. The attendance on Cage Match says 50 or 60. That would be very generous. There's probably about 20 people. Did you have any second thoughts about coming back to IWA once it had already shut down in September of that year? Or was it just like, well, Ian's running again. I'll just, work for Ian. He said, oh, pay me this. And he pays me that. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, what, he shut down for fucking 3 months?
Yeah.
What's this? I'm on Cage Match right now because I'm following along because I don't remember this
Yes.
stuff. What's this? We're in a tag match. Where is this? I lost it. Dingo and Jim Fannin defeat Drake Younger and Jimmy Jacobs, 17 minutes and 43 seconds. What the fuck was that?
It was the build up to what was supposed but I have a bone that I want to pick with you, sir, about the List of Jericho and how you give credit. You're the one that gets the credit for coming up with this idea. And I've read where you give credit to Steve Carino having a shit list that inspired you to come up with this list. And I want to know why it wasn't my shit list that I would post weekly online that you were at the top of for a very long time.
Years.
Why was that not the inspiration behind it? Or did you just not want to give me credit, so you gave it to Steve Carino?
Well, I have some sad news for everybody here. There's this video online. I forget what it's called, but it's like something like the origins of the List of Jericho. And someone made it's like a 15-minute, like a mini doc, 10-minute mini doc about where did this come from? Jimmy Jacobs says he came up with it, but he also gives credit to Steve Carino. Where did Steve Carino get it? It turns out it's a Simpsons bit. There's a bit in The Simpsons where fucking Homer's chair, the wheel falls off the chair. He goes that's it, chair. You made the list. And he writes the chair on the list. So apparently, apropos to the meme, Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did it, yeah. Wow. Do you remember the Bull Payne shit list in the Clarksville locker room on the drywall where he would write people, he put Raven on the shit list before Raven came in so he could see that, do you recall? Okay. He used to draw, I mean, you wouldn't think Bull Payne was an artist, but he used to draw some fantastic stuff on that Clarksville locker room wall.
I can't believe I don't remember that. I spent so much time. Dude,
Right.
some of those weeks, it was a very babyface heavy roster, and some of those weeks it was just me and Mitch Page, just me and him in that fucking lie. Mitch is fine. He was a miserable fuck, and it was not fun for me.
At that point for Mitch, with 30 people in the crowd, he would pray to the saint of empty wrestling chairs every week, let me just go home, please, I just want to go home. And it only happened once where there were so not that many people there that Ian said, all right, we're canceling. Only one time I recall him in Clarksville, but Mitch was trying to take a nap. He wasn't trying to be
Right.
trying to be
And I'm a
uh,
scared little fucking 18-year-old kid in there with him, 19-year-old kid. Yeah.
obviously Jim wasn't around for his post run. Uh, I was doing a lot of stuff for IWA at the time. You come back when Ian starts running in 2013, you have a little feud with Reed Bentley, and then you have a feud with Ace Perry, and talk about really taking a kid from an unknown to building him up. You even put him over, before you go to WWE in a loser leaves town match. He finally gets his revenge on you. You spiked him. You had little girls in the crowd crying. It was, first time he ever bled was with you. It was just a great feud. And with IWA being every single week, it's episodic. So it's like you're watching a TV show and it's like, all right, we're going to have a respect match. We're going to have a falls count anywhere. We're having a spike on a pole. And you just really taking this kid under your wing and teaching him, the IWA way and teaching him, all right, kid, you gotta get a callus on you if you're going to be here. You're a pretty kid, you probably saw yourself in Ace Perry. Any memories of Ace Perry and that run in IWA?
Let me first off, because you mentioned Reed Bentley, let me just, you know, I did one of the fucking most despicable fucking things ever with Reed. First of all, we had a match and it wasn't very good, and I was not happy about it.
Yes.
That's beside the point. What I did do one time, he was like, I forget what it was, man, but he was like a handcuff to somebody.
He was
It was
handcuffed to a fan because his heel group kept, getting in the matches. So he was handcuffed to a fan, and then you're wrestling, I think Josh Crane maybe, or it's like a tag.
I don't know.
Um,
I'm pretty sure like I punched him while he was handcuffed to somebody. It wasn't
yeah, you guys had a little bit of a squabble on the
yeah.
floor, and then he said after that, you guys were totally cool. Like it was like, all right, this is
I
ridiculous.
I still feel bad about it. I still feel
Yeah,
when he's mentioned Reed, there's still a part of me that like is embarrassed about how I acted back then. Ace, yeah, I liked um, Ace Perry. I don't remember a ton. I'm going back and watching all my old
right,
IWTV
right.
stuff. So at some point, I will watch that. And I like Ace Perry. What are my memories of that? I don't have much. Uh, I
Because you were playing it like, all right, Ian, like you're blowing this kid like he's nothing. He ain't shit. He ain't me. He's not Alex Shelley. He's not Cole Cabana. He's not CM Punk. So you're the veteran coming in and being like, this kid ain't nothing. And then you go on to feud with him and make him, in IWA where he becomes a top guy. He becomes a eventual champion in IWA. So
yeah, I remember. I believe it's with him. Uh, I think I spiked him for real at one point. Like there's an angle we do in the ring where I think he's supposed to get color, and I forget if I dropped the blade or if he dropped the blade, but someone was supposed to have the blade. They didn't have the blade, and I just like stabbed him in the head. And it's actually a real kind of easy way to get color. And then
yeah.
I remember there's a video online on YouTube that's like Jimmy Jacobs loses it on two referees, which is like in the loser leaves town match. We've got some sort of like, it's a circus with me, right? And there's like a ref
It's
bump, and a second ref comes in, and the first ref's supposed to come back, and like the first ref like comes back too early, and the second ref, and I'm just like losing my
yeah,
mind. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
right.
What are you doing right now? This isn't what we talked about.
Right.
Stop. That's my memory of that.
Yeah, we did not have a great ref crew at that time. There was a helper guy that was trying to learn how to ref, and at IWA, it's not really you do this and you do this and you do this, and it's you
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 learn by
count
Jimmy.
three. Yeah,
You learn by Jimmy Jacobs fucking losing his mind on you in the fucking ring. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Yeah.
You leave, you go to WWE on the creative team, and then you come back in 2017. That's when we're running the Memphis flea market, and we did this thing. I don't even know if you're aware if Ian told you, but Aaron Williams was the champion at the time, And as soon as you announced, all right, I'm done here, I'm taking bookings again or whatever, they the your music would start playing, during Aaron Williams stuff where, it's old Jimmy Jacobs music playing, it's old Jimmy Jacobs music playing, where finally you come in not announced as a surprise. The music's playing. Uh, Aaron goes over to the sound guy Harbo and he's like, "What? Like, why are you doing this?" And then you come out the curtain and you attack Aaron Williams uh, to set up this eventual Aaron Williams match. You come in on the 16th of November in 2017. Dale Patrick beat you by DQ. I believe you spiked him and left him laying. And then the next month or the next week rather, on Thanksgiving, you defeat Aaron Williams for the IWA title. You have a successful defense against Larry D, against Airwolf, and then I believe you injure your knee in the Larry D match, right? You're like
No,
jump. You're
I tore my left hamstring in a match with Joey Janela in Cleveland in December of that year. Yeah.
Okay, so you re-aggravated it, or it finally took you down.
I tore it. It's like it's tore like if you could see my leg and my pants were off, there's like a divot in my
gotcha.
in the back of my leg, and I could barely fucking like I wrestled the next day. God, it's just such a. I mean, of course I got injured because I hadn't been wrestling for a long time, but and I got injured like quick right away after my time in WWE, and it's not like so I tear my hamstring against Joey Janela, and the next day I try to wrestle in New York and I against Joe Gacy, and I can't even walk. If someone could fucking ever find that match, I can't walk in that match, and so I had to cancel about a month or so of bookings, and then even when I came back like a month later in a tag match in California against Jacob Fatu and the promoter out there with George Janela, and I could still barely walk. I could barely walk so much that the promoter called me up after the match and he goes, "Hey, I know I had you booked for a couple more shows. No."
Oh wow.
I was messed up, and so Ian had to take the belt off me.
Yeah, so you lose the title. You're gone until March of 2018. At this point, he's trying to do a Jimmy's Angels stable with Shane Bender and Dale Patricks and Ace Perry, and it never really gets off the ground. You have a match with Mance Warner in 2018. You wrestle Shane Strickland, Swerve, and the TPI in 2018. And then from September of 2018, you're not back until January of 2019. You wrestle Aaron Williams, where he gets a win over on you. And then I mentioned him on my episode, Dewey Wellington. Do you have any thoughts? Just knowing you and knowing how Dewey Wellington was, I knew what Ian was going for. He wanted another Ace Perry thing, and I don't think he was ever going to get the same success that he did with Ace Perry with Dewey Wellington. I remember so many times you just being so frustrated and so like like during the match you're like, slow the fuck down, like calm down, or something where you're like telling them like, hey, like chill out. And I mentioned to Jim, he's just kind of like a fuck up kind of person, in real life. And, he wrestled as Dewey Wellington. That was his name. So it was like his real life, was in his wrestling life too. And he was just like kind of a fuck up kind of person. Do you have anything about, about Dewey Wellington?
So, yeah, I actually just watched this series of matches. How old was he?
He like straight out of high school was like a real thing. He was like, I want to say 18 or 19.
Yeah, I think it was 18. I think that's what they said. He looks younger though. He looks like he's 16. Like he looks like a kid. And so like I watched this series of matches, and look, I've had probably somewhere a couple thousand matches probably. And I would say like a good percentage are mediocre. Like there's a good percentage of like mediocre stuff. And then I watched the first match with me and Dewey Wellington, and when I see this, I go, this is like that's the thing like about that I like about my career. It's like, yes, there's a lot of mediocrity. Like if you were to go to like a spot show I did like in a cold match, and it's just like it's a match. It's a mediocre match, generally speaking. But they're all around the United States, and just like all around these places, there are these little pockets of these like these angles that I've done. Like this Ace Perry thing. Like I haven't seen that. I don't know how it is. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. This Dewey Wellington match and the series of matches, actually, I fucking loved them, dude.
Really?
I watched it and I was like, that is like peak like Jimmy Jacobs. Like I'm watching the first match, and there's a couple times in that match where I don't know. Like I'm watching it and I don't know what's real or not. Like I'm watching it
Okay.
going, wait, was I mad right here? Because it looks like it looks like I hit him like
Really
I know
hard. Yeah.
I know it's part of the gimmick. I know I'm
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
doing it as part of the gimmick. Also, I'm like being real abuse. I make a great bully. I'm watching this match going, fuck man. If I was like a 6 foot fucking 6 guy, I would have wrestled like you watch this match, you see how I would have wrestled if I was 6'6".
Right.
I was a great again. Plenty of my stuff sucked. Plenty of it, like so much of it was mediocre. But I was a great fucking bully, man. I was like, and I just abuse him in this fucking ring to the point again where I'm watching it back, going, I think I'm mad there. I know I'm pretending to be, but I think. And
Right.
the first match and the second match, the third match isn't quite as strong in the middle. It's kind of just like a repeat of some of the other stuff we did. The beginning and the end of the third match are cool, but like it's these kind of scenarios where it's like, that's what I do. Like I watch that and go, that's my stuff. My stuff is like, it's like, it's telling this story and trying to like draw you in this weird way, in this just like the tools that I use. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of unique. You're not going to kind of see, nobody else would have had that match.
Right. Because
Yeah.
if you're watching it going, am I really pissed? Like, think about what the fans are watching. They're like, oh, his dad's watching, from the crowd, like, oh, is he shooting on him? What's going on? What?
His dad's on for the first match and second match. His dad's on commentary, and for the first match particularly, his dad like is like, well, the kid's got to learn a lesson. Jimmy, teach him a lesson. But like, I'm like, yo, this is your son. You got to
Right.
fucking stop the damn like. And I'm surprised we didn't do anything with his dad. Like I'm watching this going, why aren't we like? Where was I that I
Right.
didn't make his dad a center part of this
At least
story?
one match. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like, and at the end of the third match, he comes in, tries to save his kid, and like covers his kid up and shit. But,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, no, they're kind of fun fucking matches, man. It's like it's if you want to kind of know like how does Jimmy Jacobs wrestle, it's like that. Like that's kind of like, yeah, that's my stuff.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember, calling them, doing commentary, and just being like, well, fucking, kids, as Biff said, kids got to learn. But, in my head, I'm thinking like, all right, kid, tighten up those shoelaces and let's see what you got. If you're going to make it anywhere, you're going to make it here against Jimmy Jacobs.
I was I looked him up to see. I was like, I wonder if he's still wrestling, and he hasn't wrestled in probably about 5
He's
years.
not wrestling. I think he's had some outside of wrestling troubles and stuff of that nature. So,
Yeah, it's too
uh,
bad.
you beat him and loser leaves. He comes back under a mask. We don't really do much with that. COVID happened, so we're not running shows until September of 2020. We run in Connorsville. You wrestle Vincent Nothing, and then the next night it is yourself and Ace Perry against Lincoln Mosley and Dewey Wellington in a tag. And then the next result is your last match, the last IWA show against Matt Diesel. And you, again, this is a pattern with Ian Rotten and Jimmy Jacobs in IWA. He sees potential in a kid. He wants to put him, he wants to test him. And, Matt Diesel was still very young in his wrestling career. He's still very green. He didn't have a lot of that. Just go with the flow type of, matches and stuff like that. And I remember it's me and Prazak on commentary, and we're watching this match, and you're getting frustrated, but you're keeping it together. And then he like just punches you in the nose or kicks you in the nose or something. And then you're like, fuck, man. Like you're so upset. You're so frustrated. Uh, and then Ian wants you to cut a promo afterwards, and I'm ring announcing on the show as well. I know that Ian wants you to cut this promo where you're like, oh, maybe Ian's right, maybe you got it, kid. And you walk over to the ticket table where Ian is, and you're like, you want me to cut that promo? And he's like, please, will you please? And you're like, kind of like, oh fuck. And he's like, well, you don't have to if you don't want to. And you don't cut the promo. You're so pissed that you got, rocked in the nose or whatever. And that's the last IWA match. I told the story on my podcast with Jim. After that show, I didn't know what was going on before I got to the building. But then, I get to the building. There's a ring I've never seen before. The music laptop is not there. We have no merch. So I don't know what's going on, but I know something's going on. And then after that show, I'm taking down the cameras, I'm taking down the laptop, and I see you putting up chairs because I think you were living in Arizona at the time, and you flew in, and Ian and whoever picked you up at the airport. So you're in Ian's car. But when I see you putting up chairs, I'm like, something bad is happening. I don't know what's happening, but Jimmy's not going out of his way. He's had tenure enough. He doesn't have to put up chairs. Something's going on here, and I don't know what it is. And I was riding with Logan James and Tyler Matrix, and they come up to me and they go, hey, you ready? We walk out of the building. I said, did you get paid? And they said no. He said he would PayPal us on Monday. Famous last words. So we get in the car. It's raining cats and dogs, and we drive back to Louisville. What's your memories of that last show? Obviously, way past Jim Fannin's time. He was smart. He got out, but we were still there. The last show, Summit, Illinois, and you have this match with Matt Diesel. Any memories of that last show? And it looks to be the last ever IWA show. I don't believe Ian will ever run another show again.
Yeah, the match, right? Ian would do this, like you said, sometimes have these new guys, and like sometimes it's like yes, sometimes it's like, geez, these guys are rough. Like me and Reed was a rough fucking match. He ended up doing all right for himself, but like there were a few times like that where Ian would have a guy and wanted me to, like, even I think I put Matt over. Did I put him over?
No, you beat him. I think maybe he was supposed to squeak by you or something, and
I want to say he was.
And maybe after that you're like,
no, I get him on the finish, right? I think the finish, because I think he gets me on the finish. He hits me off on the top rope, the top rope, and fucking smashes my face.
Okay.
And I roll him up out of it. I think.
Okay.
I don't remember. It was a few years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah, I remember he fucked something up, or like early on in the match, and then later on in the match, and like I'm not. Jimmy Jacobs is not good at keeping his composure when things go, things get fucked up in the ring, and that's on me. I should know better and be better. But yeah, I was not happy. And then on the finish, he busted like my lip or something like that. Whatever it was, I was bleeding. I cut my fucking lip open really bad, and I was fucking mad. I was really mad because the two things I want when I go into a match are nobody gets hurt and it's not embarrassing. Those are the two things. So, and both those happened. Like both, right. It was an embarrassing match and I got hurt. And then at the end of the night, I just want to like go back to my hotel room, and Ian is like, yeah, you're staying with me tonight. And I go, all right, fine. It's not what I was expecting. But we had a good time, man. We had me and Ian and his family, then Misty, I think, was there, and whomever else. We stayed up and talked all night, and we got fucking McDonald's or whatever. And yeah, no, he was, PayPal on Wednesday, I think it was, and then a call on Wednesday, and then, that's it.
Right. God bless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a shame that we've been talking for so long. We've gone over, and we skipped around a lot, but all this history and all these moments and matches, and people really making themselves in pro wrestling, and then it ends with a show like that. And it was a month later, Jake burns the belts, and then it's definitely IWA's gone. And that's why I started all these podcasts that I do. Me and Mike Ruff started a rewatch series, because if we don't talk about this stuff, people don't remember it. a new wrestling fan in 2026 who's never heard of IWA, could go back and watch, Joe and Necro on YouTube, or, the Ace Perry Jimmy Jacobs saga. I made a playlist on YouTube about it. And, I think it was after a Jimmy Jacobs match that he asked Amanda out to her prom, and that moment went viral where we had, 330,000 views of, Ace Perry asking Amanda out to her junior prom. And it's just a shame that, Ian was his own worst enemy. We've talked about it on podcasts. Jim's talked about it. Like, if he could have just gave someone the business and handled the booking, like, no one was better at booking than Ian Rotten when he had a core set roster. He had a building that he knew, okay, I'm going to be here every Thursday. I'm going to be here every single week. I'm going to have these guys every single week. And that's what really helped us in terms of running shows was, we're running Thursday nights. Nobody else is really running. So we can have our pick of whoever. We can, have Jimmy Jacobs in for, every single week. It looks like you had the match with Dewey in March, and then May, and then June is when you. So we're bringing Jimmy in. I think you did a seminar at one of those shows with Dutch Mantel and Manny Fernandez. Maybe it was like a 3-part seminar or something. So it was like all this fun stuff, and it's just a shame that he couldn't get out of his own way, especially nowadays where everybody has a YouTube channel. He could just be on YouTube telling stories and, be making, a little bit of money just from his stories, but who knows what's true, what's not. And, he the internet hates him. So it's like, you can never, get those people back. Jim, anything, we talked a lot about the past, the post Jim era, anything that we didn't touch on for the,
Well, I
Jimmy
told
Jacobs.
you to cut your questions on the post me era since we had already gone so long. And I said, we wanted to end with what was supposed to be the end of the feud between me and Jimmy Jacobs.
Well, let's make that the end of this podcast.
So that's what
we'll have a good, yeah.
All this other stuff with the Huey, Louie, and Dewey, or whatever the hell his name was, wasn't expecting you to keep going on after that when I told you to wrap it up.
I thought you meant
you pulled Chris Hero on me there.
I thought you meant all the creative stuff. That's what I thought.
No, I meant like,
well, people,
Triple poor man has given us his time, and we're holding him hostage here. So.
I literally have nothing to do. So,
okay. So before I go into what did Ian tell you was supposed to happen between the two of us? You couldn't even remember the tag match. So did he even tell you anything? Did you even know where it was going?
I have no recollection. The stuff with you post I came back. I remember that I came back at TPI 06 and we did something together. I remember that you were ringside with with BJ at the I Quit match. I think you were involved in the Barbarian thing, and that's all my memories of interactions with us.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, it was 09. I was with Dingo,
who I liked, by the way. I thought Dingo was really good.
Was really good.
Yeah.
I apologized to him, and they asked me anything when Trippin' Balls had brought him up. Because Dingo didn't get the best version of me. As I had said, I was looking for the exit ramp and trying to figure out how to get out. So Ian had just started booking all these random tag matches with me, where it'd be me and Dingo against Ian and Necro. And I tried to do the Benny Hill chase scene and to get out of the barroom fight, because there was no way I was going to sit in a chair and let Necro punch me. So we did this big chase scene, or go out the building and come back in. And, I wanted to do that. And then he there was the tag match that you had brought up. And we were starting to build back up the beef between us, where you were trying to get the title off of Dingo. And there was no way I was going to let you win the title and have the chance to throw it in the trash again. And we were building back up to it.
That's a good story.
And, it was supposed to lead up to you versus me at the anniversary show in 09. I guess that would have been, my math sucks. What was that? Like 13? Would that have been the 13th anniversary, Nick?
Yes.
So it was supposed to be the 13th anniversary show. We were going to start the build up, and it was going to be me versus you. And then we were coming up with all these different stipulations to put onto it to try to make it watchable for people, because in just a wrestling match, you would have killed me in 10 seconds and it had been over. So we were supposed to be building up to this thing where it was going to be loser leave IWA, I quit, I respect. I think we were going to put lumberjacks into it, just so there'd be somebody to interfere and for you to actually do stuff with while I suck for air and try to survive and at least make it a passable amount of time for what a match of the magnitude should have like been at that point. I was going to get married in December. So I was like, the anniversary show is it. One way or the other, I'm out, I'm done. And we were supposed to end with that. And then he did, as you've brought up before, he did the, this is it, this is the last show. And it was in August. So like 2 months before, we were going to get to do this anniversary show, he did the, this is it, this is the last match, or this is the last show, IWA is closing. So I just went to the ring and did the I quit. I don't care whether you run again or not, I'm done. And so the match never happened. So what I owe you out of that is, I do respect you. I would have said I quit, and I would have put you over to have finally ended the 4-year feud. But you didn't get to have that closure. I didn't get to finish the way that I didn't get to go out the way I wanted to go out, which is why I'm coming back and managing again next month, and we'll see where it goes from there. But, it's been fucking 17 years. Too late to ramp us back up and build up to it. Definitely not getting into the ring and wrestling at this point, now that I'm damn near 50. I'm not going to do that. So thank you very much for coming on here and spending the time and talking and reliving a lot of bad memories, a lot of good memories, a lot of in-between memories, and hearing shit like it's for the very first time that neither one of us could remember of what Nick had brought up, because so much time had passed. But, I meant what I said earlier when, before the AAW incident, you were one of my favorite IWA champions up to that point, and I had loved what you had done, and it was part of the reason why I took it so personal when the shit went down that did go down. But I didn't handle it the right way. And, it was supposed to have led up to this memorable feud that everybody remembers, and neither one of us can really remember any of it beyond the one incident. So like you said, it probably was a waste to even have brought it back and tried to redo it at that point, because nobody can remember any of it except for one or two things. And it was a shame, but you were one hell of a wrestler and one hell of an IWA champion. And I guess I can't say I quit anymore since I'm coming back, but I can finish with the part where I do respect you.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that, man. And I cherish my time at IWA, and what I did throwing the belt in the trash. It's a bit of a black mark. But again, at the same time, you look back, you go, everything I don't know. Everything happened how it happened, and I regret that at 21 that was the place in my life that where I was at where I made that decision. You know, it's too bad that I was I was a coward. That's it. But so is Ian. And you got caught in the middle of two people being cowards playing a stupid game with each other. So yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. And again, man, I appreciate all my time at fucking IWA. It's where I grew up. It's where I grew up, man. It's where like I learned. It's where I learned how to like to do what it is that what wrestling is. It really is. It's like having that much space to just learn how to play. Um, I'll always cherish IWA and Ian Rotten, man. I know I've said some harsh things about Ian, man, but I love Ian. I love Ian. It's just it's hard to trust the man. He's like you said, he's his own worst enemy. We all are to some degree. He's just.
I think with him, it's if you looked up love-hate relationship in the dictionary, it's going to be him with about 150 other people.
Right.
And it was definitely the best of times, and it was definitely also the worst of times. So
It was the best, man. I loved it. I loved every minute of it, even the fucking shit I hated, man. It was great. It was great.
Before we have you get out of here, do you got anything to hype? You got any merch to sell? Any upcoming appearances?
March 7th, I'll be in South Bend, Indiana for RCW, wrestling Sean Phoenix, defending the No Limits Championship. March 14th, I'll be in the Boston area for Focus Wrestling. The 15th, I'll be at XICW in Detroit. The 27th and 28th, I'll be at Maple Leaf Pro in Windsor, but that'll be working behind the scenes. You can find all that shit at.
No, those are the dates of my comeback. So you'll be in Windsor and I'll be in Indianapolis. So.
And you can find me on Instagram at Jimmy Jacobs X. Jimmy Jacobs X, where I normally put all that stuff. So that's it. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. Good catching up.
Before you get out of here, Jimmy, my wife Jess Beesneys wanted to say hello, and you were her first indie wrestling crush. So,
so do you guys meet at wrestling?
Like she is doing commentary on Girl Fight Wrestling and stuff nowadays. She used to travel around.
You guys met through wrestling,
yes,
right?
Yes. Yeah. She worked for Ring of Honor doing curtains and ringing the bell and stuff. Of course, I worked at IWA. We met on MySpace, Jimmy. She was in my top 8 when she MySpaced me. So
that's it.
And never replaced me. So
that's it, man.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys.
Well, wrestling fans, that wraps up another edition of Fannin's Flashbacks. I'd like to apologize to Nick Manawa for my actions at the start of this podcast. I was not expecting what he pulled off, but after my response to the last question from Tripping Balls in the AMA Marathon, he thought it was time to bury the hatchet, and he was right. If I'm going to be making a comeback into professional wrestling, I need all the old rivalries over with before inevitably starting new ones. Which leads me to once again thank Jimmy Jacobs for taking the time and being the bigger man by agreeing to come on here today and squash a beef that has lasted for over 20 years, albeit mostly a one-sided beef. While we didn't really have time to get into it, Jimmy did great things behind the scenes in both WWE and AEW, and he has been continuously involved in professional wrestling. So he was the hands down winner of the war between us. But about this comeback, I have already been talking about the big return on Friday night, March the 27th in Indianapolis, Indiana for Black Label Pro. And that's the show where I finally get Mickey Knuckles to join the Fannin family after all these years. And you can get your tickets for that event at blpscx.com. But I kept dropping hints that there was another. And this week it was revealed. While I am in Indianapolis having the best night that I'm ever going to have in the wrestling business. I'm staying in town that weekend, and I'm going to invade the Wrestle Arts show on the other side of town on Saturday night, March the 28th in Indianapolis. I will also be at Wrestle Arts. That's right. The Irving Theater, Saturday night, March the 28th for Wrestle Arts. I've got my eye on a few potential clients to join the family, and I've decided to go watch them in person to see if they have what it takes, if they are indeed Fannin family material. You can get your tickets to Wrestle Arts at WrestleArtsTix.com. That's Wrestle Arts, ARTS, Tix, TIX, WrestleArtsTix.com. And if you are a wrestling promoter listening to this podcast, you can reach out to book me for your show at bookjimfannin@gmail.com. I can get you in touch with Mickey Knuckles, Nick Manawa, a host of other Fannin family approved talent, John Wayne Murdoch, Reed Bentley, Jess B's Knees, Spider Nate Webb, Tank, Toby Klein, basically anyone with an IWA Mid-South background that crossed paths with me in my time there, that's still active in the wrestling business. Let's get it back together and put us on shows one more time. So let it be written. So let it be done. Good day.